Everybody. This is the January 19, 2021 Denver Landmark Commission meeting, and I would like to bring the meeting to order. Let's start with an introduction of the commission members. I will go first. My name is Julie Johnson. I am a Historic Preservation Project Manager, and I am nominated from the community at large. Brad, you are next.
My name is Brad Gassman. I'm an architect nominated by History Colorado.
Thank you. Erin?
Hi, I'm Erin Hummel. I'm a landscape architect, and I was nominated by the American Society of Landscape Architects.
Thank you. Graham?
My name is Graham Johnson. I'm a Historic Preservation Project Manager nominated by the Denver Planning Board.
Great. Thank you. Gary?
I'm Gary Petrie, and I am an architect, and I was nominated by the Denver Planning Board.
Thank you. Erica? Did we lose Erica?
Yeah, it looks like she might have dropped off.
Yeah, that's what it looks like. Okay. Anne, would you like to introduce yourself?
I'm Ann Wattenberg. I'm an architect nominated by the American Institute of Architects.
Okay. And Jen, would you like to introduce yourself as well?
Sure, I'm Jen Capetto. I'm landmark preservation staff.
All righty. Let's go on. We have one meeting record for approval for the January 5 meeting. Are there any comments? Would anyone like to make any comments, any additions, corrections to the January 5 record?
No comment.
I see a lot of shaking heads. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes as presented?
Madam Chair, I move to approve the Landmark Preservation Commission meeting minutes from January 5th of 2021.
Thanks, Brad. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Erica. We
Or
will.
Erin. That was Erin.
Oh, I'm sorry, Erin. I saw
okay.
Erica's mouth move and your voice. I'm sorry about that. So it's a virtual thing. Okay, so let's start with Brad,
Aye.
Erin,
Aye.
Graham.
Aye.
Gary.
Aye.
Erica.
Aye.
Anne.
Aye.
And Julie will vote aye as well. All righty, moving right along. We always have, we reserve time at the beginning of every meeting for someone who would like to make a comment about historic preservation in Denver as a whole, not necessarily a particular project. But if you would like to talk about historic preservation in Denver, if you're joining by phone, you can email landmark@denvergov.org. If you're on the computer, you can comment by raising your hand on the function. You will be allowed 2 minutes to speak.
Okay, it looks like Keith has his hand up.
Okay.
So that is my job. I just wasn't ready with the timer. Hold on a second.
No,
Keith,
that's
and then
okay.
I'll promote you.
Sure, no worries.
Okay, I'm gonna unmute you. Oops, allow to talk. So you should be able to unmute yourself, Keith.
Great. Hi, Keith Pryor, 2418 Champa Street, Design Review Chair for the Curtis Park Neighbors. Just wanted to talk about our district. Our district is fairly unique, and I encourage a lot of the Landmark Commission members to come down and take a stroll through our district, and you'll see the varied heights and characters of our great homes that we've preserved. Our zoning is URH 2.5 for the most part, and that's 2.5 stories urban row house. And so one of the things that we struggle with with zoning is that it doesn't really reflect our district. And what we find is that the height is limited and the bulk planes limit us. And that's why we have administrative adjustments that are in your purview to approve, and you have approved those administrative adjustments in the past. At 2.5 stories, it's hard to fit within a 30 feet height limitation. And most as our defining characteristic in our district is stated in the opening pages of our landmark filing, is that we have a lot of houses, many of which are over 30 feet. And so if you do the basic math, we have raised porches, generally anywhere from 3 to 5 steps, and then an additional step into the house. Generally that ranges between 24 to around 36 to 40 inches tall. And then you have anywhere from a 10-foot first floor plate to a 12-foot floor plate, and then typically a 9 to a like 10-foot second floor plate. And then you need to have the roof on top of that. And so if you do the math with plates, you only are allowed a 6-foot roof in current zoning. And a 6-foot roof does not meet our 12-12 roof pitches that are found on most of our homes. Now we do have flat roof, and we also do have hipped roofs. But again, those floor plates and our raised foundations really do not fit within that 30-foot guideline or the bulk plane. And so that is why we generally ask for administrative adjustments when projects come through.
Keith, yeah, you've hit the 2-minute mark.
Great. No worries.
No, thank you very much, Keith. I
Fine.
appreciate your comment. I appreciate your commenting. Thank you very much. Are there any other public comments? Jen, anybody else raise their hand or?
Not that I see, no.
Okay, all righty. Since there are none, we will continue on to the consent agenda, which is 2020 TAXC-010 1928 14th Street. Are there any comments from the commissioners? Anyone need to recuse themselves? Anyone would like to pull this for discussion? Just let me know now. All righty, can I get a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented to us?
Madam Chair, I'll make the motion.
Thank
Madam
you.
Chair, I move to approve the consent agenda, which consists of 2020-TAXC-010 1928 14th Street in the Wyman District.
Is there a second, please?
I'll second.
Thank you, Graham. We will do a roll call vote. Brad,
Aye.
Aaron,
Aye.
Graham,
Aye.
Gary,
Aye.
Erica,
Aye.
Ann?
Aye.
Julie also votes aye, so that's unanimously approved consent agenda. If you are here representing the consent agenda, you are free to leave the meeting if you wish, or you can always stick around, of course, but you don't have to at this point. Our next item on the agenda is setting a public hearing. This is 2021 LMDEMO-015 18300 West Alameda Parkway at Red Rocks. The recommendation from staff is to set a public hearing on February 16th, 2021. Would anyone like to comment on that? Any of the commissioners have any comments, or can I get a motion to set the public hearing that day? I don't hear any comments. Can I get a motion to call for the public hearing to be set on February 16, 2021?
Yeah, Madam Chair, this is Brad. I'll pull together the motion.
Thank you very
I
much.
move to set the public hearing for 2021-LMDEMO-015 18300 West Alameda Parkway for February 16th, 2021.
All right, thank you, Brad. Is there a second, please?
I'll second. This is Erica.
Thank you, Erica. We will do a roll call vote then. Brad,
Aye.
Aaron,
Aye.
Graham,
Aye.
Gary, Erica,
Aye.
Ann?
Aye.
Julie also votes aye. So we will have that on our schedule as a public hearing on February 16th. Thank you very much. And if you're here representing that project, you're also, you can also leave the meeting if you wish. So the next on our agenda is the design review. These are items that the commission reviews individually with an opportunity for public comment. The commissioners will share if they have any ex parte communications or need to recuse themselves from review of any design items. Staff will make a presentation followed by questions from the commission. The applicant will have up to 10 minutes to make a presentation at the table, followed by questions by the commission. Members of the public are welcome to comment for up to 2 minutes per person. If you are joining by computer, please raise your hand. If you're joining by phone, please email landmark@denvergov.org with your name, phone number, and which of the projects you would like to speak. Staff will provide a recap, and then the commission will go into deliberation, at which point we will vote. So the first up on our design review agenda is Jesse's project. One of them, it's 2020-COA-398-3002 Champa Street in Curtis Park. Jesse, welcome, take it away.
All right. So the LPC reviewed phase one mass forming context for 3002 Champa Street at the December 1st, 2020 LPC meeting. The commission did approve this review of phase one and only had a few minor comments comments to be cleaned up during phase two review of the project. So the application has come back today for the second phase review of design details. Pictured here is the proposed location on the site and a general isometric drawing of the proposed design details phase of this project. Oops, okay. So on December 2nd, staff, in addition to the commission's comments, staff received comments from a public member. These specifically centered around a half bay at the northwest corner of the building and the inset brick detail on the garage. The applicant has tried to do their best to respond to both the public comment and the commission's comments on the building. So I will add to the commission's comments specifically centered around the location and size of the brick banding detail on the main structure. And again, that applicant has tried to address both the commission's comments and the public comment that came in. Okay. So pictured here is the proposed basement plan for the new infill. As you can see from this footprint, the applicant has shifted over the bay, bays and has eliminated that half bay on the northwest corner of the building. While reviewing, the application staff did note that section details were not provided for the proposed egress and light wells. And as this project is also going through the SDP review process, the applicant will need to make sure to include these details in the final landmark drawings as well as the SDP. So we're moving on now to the first floor level of the proposed infill, where you can see once again that the new arrangement of the bays kind of creates a cleaner edge on that northwest corner. You can also see that the applicant is still proposing to maintain the infill windows on the garage. And staff are supportive of the infilled windows as it breaks up the garage facade. So they didn't necessarily respond to that part of the public comment, but they did respond to the part of the public comment that dealt with that half bay at the end of the main structure. And then here is the second floor level. I won't spend too much time on that because again, you can just see simply the shift of that bay layout. And then I have two roof plans that are coming up here. So pictured here is the roof deck plan. The applicant is proposing to use a membrane roofing material with a Trex composite decking material over the top in the color Foggy Wharf. And then this is the full roof, the second roof plan here. And it shows a better detail of the proposed stair access points for the roof deck. Staff would like to again note that the proposed hatches are set back from the street-facing facades of the building as a means of reducing their overall visibility. So this is the Champa Street elevation of the building. In the review of phase one, the commission stated that the proposed belt course at the meeting rail level of the windows on the building was too tall, making the windows appear more squat. So the applicant has slimmed down that profile to allow it to better fit within the context and to prevent those windows from looking more squat, and to really highlight their appropriateness to the typical ratios, window ratios found in the district. So this is the 30th Street elevation, and here you can better see the new bay articulation and the infilled windows on the garage, both of which staff are supportive of. We feel like that really cleaned up that corner of the building. And we also feel like the inset windows help to break up that garage facade, which faces onto 30th. Oops, moved a little too quickly. So I won't spend too much time on the interior lot side and the rear facade, because these are not going to be readily visible once the block is infilled. We don't have any major concerns about either of these elevations. They're pretty straightforward. And again, the visibility will be significantly reduced once the rest of the block is infilled. And there's the back facade with the garage access off the alleyway. So the applicant has provided several section details of the exterior walls of the building. However, as I mentioned before, they did not include section details of the proposed egress windows and light wells at the basement level. So the applicant will need to provide these details in the final landmark drawing set, as well as in the SDP plan set. Staff would like to note or to add a condition. This really came up when we started doing this finer comb through during the presentation phase, that we've discovered that an addition should be, a condition should be attached to the motion to include details of the egress windows and light wells per guideline 2.18. So here are some brick details and cornice details that better show how the applicant has met the commission's comments on the brick belt courses in the December 1st meeting. So the brick will be laid in a running bond pattern with a first floor row lock brick sill course with a 5/8 inch projection, a window course band with a 5/8 inch projection, a second floor row lock brick sill course band with a 5/8 inch projection, a parapet wall single stretcher brick course with a 5/8 inch projection, and 3 courses tall reveal with a 1 1/4 inch recession, and a single stretcher brick course with a 5/8 inch projection. So it creates kind of a variation in the facade and ties into other brick belt course details on other Italianate buildings in the district, so better fitting it into the surrounding historic context. So they've also included some additional details in their application for the entrances and cornice if you need additional information on what those will look like. And then the applicant did provide window details, and staff would like to point out that they are including a 2-inch inset on the window, which will help to create that shadow line typical of historic buildings, allowing this building to better fit within the context. So staff is supportive of the 2-inch inset on the windows. Okay, and then here we have the proposed materials and finishes for the building. The flat roof form will be clad in a membrane roofing material with Trex composite decking in the color Foggy Wharf. The walls of the building will be clad in Summit brick in the color Black Diamond with a mortar to match, and smooth finish Hardy plank with a 4-inch reveal in the color Limousine. The cornice and trim will be smooth finish Hardy. The cornices and trim will be smooth finish Hardy board in the color Limousine. Windows will be single hung fixed sliding and casement windows from the Anderson 100 series. That's a Fibrex composite window. Doors will be full light doors, some with transoms, from the Therma-Tru series, with a flush panel door by Geldwin and a steel garage door on the garage portion of the building. The proposed porches will feature a flat roof form with EPDM membrane roofing materials, smooth finish Hardy board cornices and trim. Full square wood columns will support the porch roofs, simple square wood columns will support the porch roof. The porch floor will be a smooth finish concrete, and the porch ceilings will be clad in clear select cedar tongue and grooves boards. There are additionally some light fixtures on these material sheets, mostly downlight, simple fixtures. Here are some isometric drawings, better showing, the proposed appearance of the building. Staff are supportive of the proposed materials of the building as they are high quality construction and will allow the building to be easily identifiable as modern construction while maintaining a more traditional building form. Okay, so finally pictured here is the proposed landscape plan. In addition to the request for a front yard fence and a rear yard fence, the applicant has also included a bike rack on the plan, and that's the only place that it's on here. It's right at the front corner of the garage, furthest away from the garage doors. I don't have a way to zoom in or point out for you all, but just trust me that it's there. Staff, in addition to reviewing the plan set that was submitted for LPC review, have reviewed the second round of the site development plan. And notice that they also have included in this SDP drawing set, mailboxes for the building that will be located right next to that bike rack. So we don't have any additional information on that in either the landmark plan set or the SDP. And we will require that we get additional information on that in both drawing sets. Staff are not concerned about the placement of the mailboxes or the bike racks, as these will be located towards the garage, which is like secondary to that primary building. And they'll be not minimally visible, but I don't think that it'll be something that'll necessarily stand out, as mailboxes and bike racks are kind of typical for multi-family structures. As they will be located in front of the garage and will not detract from the overall appearance of the infill, staff are recommending, again, that this just be a simple condition added to the motion, that details be provided for the mailbox and bike rack per guideline 5.3. So the site will feature, and details were provided of the proposed fence, but it will feature a 6-foot high wooden fence, simple dog-eared wooden fence on the interior lot side of the building, set back from the front facade. The northwest Champus side of the building will feature a 2-foot 6-inch metal fence with 2-foot 9-inch posts. These are pretty typical, simple designs that fit within the character, so staff is really not concerned. So in conclusion, staff is recommending conditional approval of the application with the conditions that details be included for egress windows and light wells per guideline 2.18, and that details for the proposed bike rack and mailboxes be included in the plan set per guideline 5.3. Staff feel that these conditions could be approved at the staff level so that it doesn't have to return to the commission for further review.
Okay, great. Jesse, thank you very much. I appreciate that. Commissioners, have you any questions for staff at this point? No, doesn't look like it. All right, is our applicant present?
Yep, they've just been promoted.
Excellent. To the applicant, please state your name and your address, and then you will have 10 minutes to speak.
You'll need to unmute yourself when you're ready.
You just showed me that I should unmute,
Oh,
and this one isn't mine.
you're right. Sorry. I was referring to Will Newman, who I believe is the applicant for this project.
Can you guys hear me all right?
Yes, perfectly.
Hello? Can you guys hear me all right?
Yes.
Okay. Michael Maxey is supposed to be in on this one too. I don't know if we can bring him in on there. He's actually kind of the lead architect on this project.
He wasn't on our list of the attendees, so that's perfect. We'll promote him right now. Emily, if you could do that, that'd be great. I'll go ahead and do that just in case. There we go. Okay. Okay, you both should be ready whenever you're ready.
Hi. Do we have 10 minutes still? Is it almost up?
No, I haven't started the clock yet.
All right. Well, we'll be quick anyway. Thanks, Jesse. She covered, the bulk of it, and just a couple things to address. One was I think Ann had a comment from our phase one about the garage and having some more detail to it. So we put effort in that, trying to add that, and think that it was successful. Previously, it was a little understated, and now it matches the rest of the building. So hopefully that hit the mark. And then there was a comment from the neighborhood that in the renderings, it doesn't really show up, but in our notes in the set, we notated it to have all of our front doors have a etching or frosting for privacy. And so I just wanted to point that out, that we're planning to do that in all of our doors. So those are the two kind of big things. As far as the window wells, we've done window wells in the past, and so we're confident in that condition. And also the mailbox and bike rack, same thing. It's a zoning requirement, although it's not ideal for the part of the building that it's against. It is a requirement that we have to fulfill, and we try to put it in the best spot that we can, so it looks appropriate. Other than that, I think Jesse pointed on this as well. There was a comment from the community about the bay, and then also the windows in the garage, and we felt that the recessed brick window pattern added some articulation to the garage, whereas it would have been just kind of a flat facade. So we looked at it, but we ultimately decided to leave them in. And that's all I have.
All right. Do the commissioners have any questions for the applicants? Does not look like it. Jen, is there anyone from the public who would like to comment on this project?
Oops, I'm muted. Sorry. It looks like Keith Breyer has his hand up.
Thank you, Keith.
So let me just, I will unmute you. You're able to talk whenever you're ready, Keith.
Great. Keith Pryor with Curtis Park Design Review Chair, 2418 Champa Street. Not sure where the issue came up with the recessed windows in the garage. That is something that we are supportive of. We have been supportive of it in the past, and we have had great results with it. There's been a couple of different projects where on a corner unit like this, where it is visible from the street, we do prefer to have the brick on the side of the garage and have those windows break up that massing. So we are indeed in support of that. The applicant did a great job on this. We really appreciate him removing that half bay. It does provide more symmetry and balance to this project, which is what you typically find in our district. The brick banding and the simplification of that is great. And we greatly appreciate them making those details and then also building up that parapet to reflect that what is more found in the district. We love the fence. It's very supportive. It's the correct height. We do have a lot more lower fences rather than what people like to put in today, which is like a 4-foot. So having that lower fence is more traditional to the district and what you find. So it's a really great project. We've really enjoyed working with these guys on this design, and we look forward to getting built. And we encourage the commission to support the design detail phase of this project. Thank you.
Thank you, Keith. Jen, is anyone else lined up that wishes to speak?
It looks like Sue Glassmacher. So
all right.
I'm going to, did I get the right person? Because they jump around, so that's why. All right, Sue, it looks like you're ready to go whenever you are ready.
Oh, okay. I'm Sue Glassmacher, 1037 29th Street. I'm back up with Keith. So the only thing, I think this is an excellent project, and I really like the use of the modern color brick with very traditional details. And I'm not a fan of the dark brick myself, which doesn't matter, but they did it right. But I just have a question. Is the dark brick going to, are the details in the brick going to show up on the dark brick, or will they just kind of blend in? That's all my concern is. And I think they've done.
I could answer it.
Nice.
I could try to answer it. The brick, we've used it a number of times in the past, and it's actually it has a very nice tone to it, where it's not extremely dark, and it does cast shadows from details. So it will show the detail, and I'm confident in this brick, as we've used it a number of times in other projects, including another project in Curtis Park on 23rd and Stout.
Okay, thank you very much, Sue. Thank you. Are there any other comments, Jen?
Not that I see, but Sue didn't use all her time. So Sue, did you have more that you wanted to share, or is that it?
No, that's it.
Okay. Right,
great. Thank you, Sue.
I don't see any other hands raised, and we don't have anyone on the phone with us today. So yeah.
All right, terrific. Jesse, did you want to make any comments from staff?
I just did want to follow up really quickly on the 2 public comments.
Sure.
So Keith had mentioned that he didn't know where the comment on the brick infill came from in the garage windows. That specifically came from a public comment that came to us on December 2nd. That comment was included in your packet. So if you need to take a closer look at it, it's there. Sue did talk about concerns about the black brick not showing shadow lines. This is a material that has been used on several projects in Curtis Park. And you can clearly see, that shadow lines are still visible, brick detailing is still visible. As the applicant iterated, it's black brick, but it's in a tone that is light enough to allow those shadow lines to still be clearly visible. And this material will help distinguish this as a modern infill, even though it's more traditional in form.
Okay, great. Did the commission have any further questions for staff before we deliberate? Doesn't look like it. Okay. Oh, Gary does.
We're gonna need staff's help with the two conditions that were, because those conditions were not put in the staff report that I have. So when we
Right.
get to that, we'll need some guidance.
So staff is recommending conditional approval with the conditions that details be provided for the egress windows and light wells per guideline 2.18, and that details be provided for the proposed bike rack and mailboxes per guideline 5.3.
Thanks, Jesse. Any other questions for Jesse? Not see any other questions for staff, so let's go ahead and deliberate. Commissioners, what do you think?
This is Brad. Gary's got his hand up.
Now, you started talking before I put my hand up, so go ahead, Brad.
All right, thank you. I think this project does a really good job of meeting the guidelines and have responded well to the comments. So I am supportive of the conditional approval.
All right, Brad, Gary, you're next.
And I agree with what Brad has said. I think the improvements that have been made since the previous submittal have been very positive, and they've responded to our concerns, and I support the proposal.
Great, thanks, Gary. Would anyone else like to comment? Anne, did you want anything? Want to say anything?
I just agree. I think it's a terrific project, and it's
Yeah.
really well done interpretation of the existing building types. And so I wholeheartedly support this application.
Oh, great. Any other comments, or are we ready to take a vote?
No, I agree with everything that's been said.
Okay, all righty. Aaron, you good? Erica? Okay, who would like to make the motion?
This is Brad. I took some notes. I think I've got it figured
Great,
out.
thank you, Brad.
So I'll give it a shot.
Please.
I move to conditionally approve application number 2020-COA 398 for the new infill building at 3002 Champa Street as per design guidelines 4.1, 4.2, 4.3, 4.5, 4.6, 4.8, 5.9, character defining features for the Curtis Park Historic District, presented testimony, submitted documentation, and information provided in the staff report with the following conditions. Applicant to include details of window wells and egress windows per design guideline 2.18, and to provide additional information and details on mailboxes and bike racks per guideline 5.3.
Brad, thank you. Can I hear a second, please?
I'll second. This is Erin.
Hi, Aaron. Thank you for that. We will do a roll call vote. Brad,
Aye.
Aaron,
Aye.
Graham,
Aye.
Gary,
Hey,
Erica,
Aye.
Anne,
Aye.
Julie also votes aye. It's unanimously approved. Congratulations. And now we are on to our next design review project, which is also Jesse's 2021-COA-001, which is 583 High Street in Driving Park. Go for it, Jesse.
All right. So this is 583 High Street. It was constructed in 1932 and is a contributing building to the Driving Park Historic District. The applicant is requesting to construct a new rear addition, install a new stucco wall and fence, and make alterations to the garage roof form. So pictured here is a proposed site plan clearly showing the proposed project scope. And again, that's a new addition at the back of the house, alterations to the garage roof, and a new site wall and fence. So the applicant is requesting to demolish 37.8% of the house's rear roof and 17.8% of the house's rear wall to accommodate the new addition. The total demolition for the house is 25.9%, which is well below the 40% threshold, requiring a public hearing. So this project does not need a public hearing as it is well below that threshold. So here you can see the existing and proposed roof plans showing that rear addition. It does have some shed roofs on this addition to help minimize the overall height, but create more livable space in that upper portion of the addition. So here's the existing and proposed east elevation. The applicant isn't proposing any alterations to this elevation. However, staff wanted to include this slide as it does show the proposed stucco wall and wood gate at the front of the house. So here's the existing and proposed north elevation. The applicant is proposing to increase the window size on the upper story window in the gable end of this house to meet egress, and is proposing to add an egress door at the basement level. The window in the gable end on the north elevation will not be readily visible from public vantage points, so staff have very few concerns about that. The window will also be, the replacement window will also be an aluminum clad wood casement window with simulated divided light pattern with a spacer bar, similar to the patterning currently on those windows in the gable end. The proposed egress door will be located below grade on the north elevation and will not be visible from public vantage points. The proposed door will be fiberglass, 4-light, half-light door. And again, staff don't have concerns really about these two alterations as they will be on the side of the building and will not be readily visible from public vantage points. So here's the west elevation, existing and proposed, so you can better see that proposed addition here. The new addition footprint will measure 15 feet 6.5 inches by 32 feet 6.5 inches and will be inset 4 inches from the side walls of the existing home. The addition will feature a gable roof form with shed roof dormers and will be, 23 feet 8.5 inches in height. So it will be below the the overall height of the existing roof. The addition will be clad in brick as well as stucco, and the addition windows will be multi-light Pella architectural series, aluminum clad wood casement windows. Divided light windows will be simulated divided lights with a spacer bar. The addition doors will be full light Pella architectural series, aluminum clad wood sliding doors. 2 notes in regards to the stucco on sheet 8 state that the stucco color and finish and texture to match will be to match the existing vertical control joints at 24 feet. And the second note states that this stucco panel board to have texture and color to match F2A, which is that first note that I read off to you. So, and then it says vertical seams to be covered by F5A. So Landmark requires or has required in the past that all stucco material be a true 3-coat stucco system. And staff is requesting that the applicant clarify this in their application that they will be using a 3-coat stucco system on their addition and on the site wall and on the garage gable end per guidelines 3.2.D and 5.9. So here is the proposed south elevation, existing and proposed south elevation. No changes are proposed for the south elevation on the main house. The only thing here is that you can see additional vantage viewpoints of that proposed rear addition. So finally, the applicant is proposing to alter the existing flat roof garage into a gable roof garage, pictured here existing garage elevations. So I would also like to note here, you can see on the west elevation that this garage shares a wall with the garage next door, which may be an explanation for why they're proposing to inset the gable roof form inside the parapet walls on the existing garage. So here's the proposed gable roof form that will be inset into the existing parapet wall of the garage. The roof will be clad in asphalt shingle and will feature a stucco panel board in the gable ends. Staff have concerns about the longevity of the garage due to the potential of water infiltration where the gable roof meets the parapet. Staff recommend that an overhang be added, a minimum of 6 inches, which is what the commission has typically been supportive of in the past, to prevent drainage issues per guideline 5.9. Staff additionally recommend that the stucco material in the gable end of the proposed garage roof be a true 3-coat system. So staff is recommending conditional approval of the application with the conditions that the stucco material on the addition, garage, and site wall be a true 3-coat stucco system per guideline 3.2D and 5.9, and that the garage roof overhang and the garage parapet have a minimum of a 6-inch overhang per guideline 2.38.
All right, Jesse, thank you very much. Do any of the commissioners have any questions for staff? Erica, it looks like you do.
Yes, thanks. So I first wanted to clarify,
you're muted again.
Sorry.
There you go.
Okay. All right. In the table of the staff report for guideline 2.38, you note that the garages are not contributing to the driving park district. And I just wanted to clarify, is it specifically say not contributing, or does it not say one way or the other?
It does not say that, it doesn't call out in the designation secondary structures being contributing to the district. So staff has wanted to point that out because it does provide the commission with some flexibility when reviewing these secondary structures.
And then, thank you. And then one last question, as far as your recommendation that the gable ends or the eaves extend past the garage wall, would that then require removal of this parapet and the brickwork, the decorative brickwork that we see there?
So again, staff brought up these concerns because the commission needs to make the final weigh-in on this. There are 2 kind of issues that come up here. Whether or not that parapet wall will be maintained if they move, if they put the garage or the gable on top of the parapet, or if they're proposing to remove the parapet. And then on the other hand of this, or on the other side of this, is that there's an attached garage on this existing garage, which may create issues with an overhang, especially over property lines. Staff, again, wanted to bring all the information to the table for you all so that you can make the best and most informed decision possible. So the issues at play here are that it's attached to the garage next door, that we don't have enough information if they were to maintain that parapet wall or remove that parapet wall to keep that gable end, if the 6-inch overhang is possible. And then finally on this is that garage structures are not considered contributing to this district. So that may provide you with a little bit of flexibility when you're reviewing this as to what decision you finally come down on.
Thank you.
Okay, Erica, thanks, Jesse. Were there any other questions for Jesse? Nope. Okay. Nope. Okay, excellent. Jen, is the applicant present?
Emily is Emily's the one moving people over, so.
Oh, Emily, is the applicant present?
Yes, and I'm moving them over right now.
Excellent, thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Sure. To the applicant, please state your name and your address. And if you watch Jen Capetto, she will have a timer and you can watch, you will have 10 minutes to speak.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I'm Allison Hagan. I'm one of the, oh, I'm
Just
sorry.
really quickly, it looks like Matthew also has Matthew Groves. Is he part of your team as well?
Yes, he is the homeowner.
Perfect. Sounds good. Just
Oh,
making sure
okay.
because he wasn't on our list.
Right.
Yes.
So I'll move him.
Okay, you're ready whenever you are.
Okay, so the two issues that came up, the stucco system and the garage roof. As far as the stucco system goes, yes, we would be happy to clarify that we will be using a true 3-coat system everywhere where it's employed. The issue of the garage roof is a bit tricky for this particular site, simply because we are directly attached to the neighbor to the north. And so our goal with this roof modification was to protect the parapets both to the north and to the south. The reason for protecting the parapet to the north was out of respect to the north neighbor. We want to make sure that we are not encouraging any water shedding onto their property or onto their garage roof. And so we are proposing instead that we have the gable roof stay inset of that north parapet and funnel the water west where we have a downspout, collect it and shoot it into the alley. We would like to propose the same treatment to the south parapet, both for symmetry at the garage door, as you can see in the proposed west elevation, as well as to preserve and keep visible the decorative brick in that south parapet. We feel that even if we were able to keep the parapet and simply have an extension of roof above it, that it would visibly mar how noticeable that brick detail is, simply because it would put it into shadow, even with a 6-inch overhang. So those are the reasons that we decided to have the gable roof inset of the two parapets. We feel confident that between specialized sloping as well as flashing and counter flashing, that we can successfully have these two detailed areas constructed in a way that does not bring undue risk of water mitigation into the garage itself. And as far as the garage roof goes, that's it.
All right. Would any of the other applicants like to speak? All right. It doesn't sound like it. Commissioners, have you any questions for the applicants?
Hi, I do. This is Erin. This is regarding the stucco property wall. And I do have some concerns where the stucco would meet the finished grade and what the conditions of the finished grade would be, say if it's turf grass or landscaping that would have irrigation that might wick up into the wall, and how you are going to meet that stucco with the ground plane.
That is a very good question. There are two different locations where we have these stucco walls at landscape. The rear one at the alley, you can actually see in the proposed west elevation for the garage. And there is an existing concrete wall that you can see underneath the stucco wall. We would maintain to keep that. And in an event it's not salvageable, then we would actually rebuild it in order to provide space between grade and the bottom of the stucco wall. The other location is street facing at the front of the house, at both the north and the south ends. In this location, we can certainly look into providing gravel and some sort of distancing between, or repeating the design that we have here, where we would have a concrete base in order to provide space between the bottom of the stucco wall and the grade itself.
That'd be good. The other thing I would be a little concerned with there is if there was turf grass against there and people ever used a line trimmer, that it might damage the stucco wall. So I would support either having a gravel base or kind of a concrete stem wall that it's sat upon, so the stucco is not exposed so much. So just my thoughts.
Okay.
Thank you, Erin. Any other commissioners have questions for the applicants? Does not look like it. Okay, thank you, applicants. Jesse, did you have any comments after the applicant's presentation?
So after Aaron just asked that question about the site wall, it may be necessary to add an additional detail showing how they're going to resolve potential issues with stucco damage. So that might be something that you can add in as a condition, just to provide a detail of that site wall.
Okay. Thank you, Jesse. All right. Oh, Erica, no, I guess you weren't asking a question. All right, then if there are no other questions, the commissioners have no other questions for staff, then let's go into deliberation.
Nope, public comment.
Oh, I'm sorry, public.
Good.
Is there, thank you, Jen. Is there anyone lined up to speak and make a comment on the project?
I don't see any hands raised. So that must
So
be a
see,
no.
my intuition was spot on. No, okay. So now we can continue with deliberation. Commissioners, your opinions, please. We've got the garage is kind of an interesting conundrum, and the stucco as well. So please, your opinions.
Madam Chair, I'll just jump in and say
Thanks, Graham.
I appreciate the applicant's description of the constraints around the garage.
Mhm.
And I think the contributing, non-contributing that Erica brought up and that Jesse mentioned also helps to frame our decision there. But just as a friendly comment, I think most would agree with me that flashing a sloped roof to the inside of the parapet wall like that, regardless of the architectural style, is definitely asking for some issues down the road. So I know that's not our purview, but just a friendly comment there. I've seen that detail a few times in other historic buildings, and then often because we're repairing it. And so I understand it's a tough situation there, but I just wanted to throw that out.
Thank you. Okay. Anyone else? Any thoughts? Anne, you've got your hand up, please.
My friendly comment is whether or not the pitch of the roof should be rotated 90 degrees. Because actually the main house, the main slope of the roof goes, let me see if I've got this right. It goes east to west. And if you just rotated the ridge 90 degrees, you wouldn't have the problem of the parapet. And the reason I say this is because the whole point of having a sloped roof is to drain off the water. So if you're draining it off to a place you don't want to be, maybe you should just drain it in the other direction.
I'm going to jump in for that because based on this drawing that I see here on the proposed west elevation, that would interfere with the bulk plane in the for the garage in the rear 35. So that's just something to consider. You guys could always do an administrative adjustment recommendation, but I suspect that's one of the reasons. And if you want to ask the applicant that, that's a great question to ask the applicant.
Great. Thanks, Jen. Appreciate that. Comments? Gary, Brad?
Looks like they have their hand up.
Did they have their hands up? Okay, great.
But if you did want to ask, I mean, you haven't asked them a question yet, so that's you're in deliberation. If you want to ask that as a question, that's great. If not,
sure. If they've got their hand up, I'm guessing that's because they want to answer said question. Is that correct?
Presumably, but you need to ask the question.
Okay, since it was my friendly question, I would like to ask the applicant whether they considered rotating the ridge of the roof 90 degrees.
Okay.
And they're unmuted, or you can unmute yourself. Yep. Allison.
It's exactly as you explained it. The reason that we did not rotate it, which we agree would be much more practical and would mimic the house much more closely, is simply because of the bulk plane.
Okay. Thank you. Brad, did you have a question?
Yeah, I'd like to follow up on that question. Have you talked about the possibility of administrative adjustment if commission was supportive of that as a way to provide you a little more flexibility in dealing with this tricky situation.
The
applicant, go ahead.
We have touched upon that with the client due to the lengthy process of administrative review, which may be made, it might help facilitate the process with your support. But given that lengthy review process, the applicant preferred to move forward in this direction. The other reason for that is not simply to be in accordance with the bulk plane, but also for the view as seen from the house. If you look at the proposed east elevation of the garage, which is on the same page at the top right, you can see the view that would be seen from the house itself, which we all felt was much more desirous than seeing simply the side of the roofing.
Okay. Jesse, I saw your hand up.
Yeah, so I just wanted to clarify, the AA process is not a lengthy process. It is an administrative review process. So if the commission recommended, it would go on to the zoning administrator. And typically those are quickly signed off on an administrative level. So that's not really, timeline is not really an issue in this case. If you wanted to recommend an administrative adjustment to rotate the garage roof 90 degrees and that it pierce the bulk plane in that case.
You could also, if you wanted it to be a dealer's choice situation, you could have, provide options there. So it doesn't have to be one or the other if you're comfortable with both.
Yeah, I would add to Jen's comment. I mean, the other option could be just simply to raise this existing roof up out of that condition so that you're above the parapet and can deal with, waterproofing issues kind of in a give yourself a better chance to deal with them more positively, and it still preserves the end elevation view that I think is desired. So I think the administrative option would give them some flexibility to try a few things that would make the project more successful.
Okay. I'm not entirely sure what to do here. So in the current motion, in the current project that's in front of us, the administrative adjustment is not a part of something that the applicant wanted to pursue. Do we send this back to them, or what do you recommend? Or maybe even talk to that.
You can add the administrative adjustment on as a second motion. Jen,
Okay.
hasn't Adam been requiring us to do two separate motions for an administrative adjustment and the standard motion?
Yeah, and in this case, I think not specific to this project, but specific to when the commission has kind of thought that something might be a better outcome and has made a conditional approval based on the information they have. We often will get, the applicant will come back to us and say, actually, that's not what we want at all, and then it has to go back to you guys anyway. So it may behoove you to ask a few more questions of the applicant before you make any determination.
Okay, then I would like to ask the applicant if the administrative adjustment, should the commission be interested to pass one, is that something that you would be interested, your client would be interested in doing?
My understanding is that they may be. We had, when you had first brought up, my apologies, I assumed that you were speaking of the variance process. It sounds that this would be a much easier process, which is great. And so they might be more open to that. That said, by the two designs, I believe, that we're talking about as potentially being given administrative review would be either rotating the roof or elevating the roof over the parapet. Is that correct? Both of which would pierce the bulk plane?
Yeah, I believe that's correct.
Okay, the one issue or the one concern I would have is simply elevating it while it would above the parapet, while it would maintain the view that they would like from the rear of the house. It would provide a potential water issue with the neighbor's garage. I don't believe zoning would be thrilled with the idea of us shedding water onto the neighbor's garage where that condition does not already exist.
I believe you're correct there.
Okay, so my guess is that this would mean rotating the roof as it stands now, but I would need to confirm with both Matt and Babette Groves. I believe rotating the roof would not be their first choice. Their first choice, I believe, is to keep this view as seen from the rear of the house, but I would need to discuss this with them further.
Okay. All right, thank you. Jesse.
Yeah, so if the commission decides to add in an administrative adjustment for piercing the height and bulk plane on the garage, and also allow to rotate that roof, or set the roof up on the parapet, which I think we've just uncovered is probably not feasible. I would state that the code that you're going to use for that motion will be the Denver zoning code 12.4.5.3. And this would specifically be an administrative adjustment for piercing the bulk plane at the rear 35% of the lot.
Okay, all right.
I would add height to that just in case it actually is height.
Cool. Yep. Height and bulk plane at the in the rear 35% of the lot. So if you guys decide to add that in your motion, there you go. That's what you need to reference.
And just because the administrative adjustment is in the motion doesn't mean that they are required to pursue that, correct?
That's correct. I think you're
Right,
providing an option. Yeah, but I do think it's really important to vote on this project existing as it is.
Yeah.
And if you want to provide some flexibility there, that's great. But think about whether rotating the roof would open up any other design issues that might not meet the design guidelines.
It would have to come back to us.
Yeah. So this one's tricky.
Yeah, it is a little tricky. Commissioners, anybody wish to weigh in on our tricky issue?
This is Erica. I don't think I will be very helpful, but I guess I'll just say that I would like to see that parapet retained if at all possible, because I do think the brickwork that we see there is clearly relates and is part of the original house design. And I just don't want to see it go away if at all possible. So I'm not necessarily, I guess I would prefer to, I'm not sure if it means asking them to come back with a redesign for the garage or not. But I haven't also considered, how that rotated roof might affect the other design. So I guess I just wanted to throw that out as a starting point.
Okay, I'm sorry, Gary.
As difficult as it is to flash an interior gutter, the way they've proposed it, I think I prefer what they've done, because it does preserve the detail of the parapet on the garage. I think the gable going the way that they've shown it is more compatible with the garage than running the gable the other way. Typically, garages have gables run the long dimension of a garage rather than across the short dimension. I think what they've proposed is what I prefer. The applicant just has to deal with a somewhat expensive, complicated flashing detail, which can be done. I mean, it has been done. And it requires maintenance and appropriate detailing, and the execution in the field is critical, but it can be done. And I think I prefer what they've shown rather than either raising the roof and putting it on top of the parapet, which creates its own issues, or turning the gable 90 degrees, which I think starts to be less compatible with the character of the garage.
I'll just jump in. This is Erica. I agree with Gary that I personally prefer it as they've presented in their packet.
All right, that's good, Erica. Brad?
Brad wants to jump in. I'll jump in after that.
Great, Brad.
Yeah, I mean, I think after all this discussion, I'm in agreement with Gary and Erica. I think that they'll figure out how to deal with those issues, and it'll be nice to save that parapet condition. I think the rest of the house they've done a really nice job with. So kind of talking about the other items, and I think that, you know, the two things we discussed are really how you treat the base of that site wall. That's really important. I think we got, you know, there needs to be a detail for that. And then documenting the 3-part stucco system on their drawings. And then I'm supportive of the project where it stands.
Great, Brad. Graham, you're next.
Yeah, Brad said, I think the fact that we spent 90% of our time about the garage goes to show that the house itself, I think, is really well done, meets the guidelines. And don't disagree, you know, with Gary's comments on the flashing. It reminded me too, as we were talking a few weeks back, we looked at a similar garage. I think it was also Driving Park, where there were some windows, dormers that were added, and the conversation about contributing versus non-contributing and our purview there. I think those dormer windows made it through the process. And so I feel like all the conversation was good and comments, but at the end of the day, you know, I'm comfortable with where it's at as well.
Okay. Anne, did you have any thoughts, additional thoughts? No? Aaron and Erica, you good?
No, I'm in agreement with everyone.
Okay. Okay, sounds great. So it sounds like we are leaning against an administrative adjustment. Are we, do I have a commissioner who would like to make a motion?
Before we make a motion, I just wanted to confirm, per Aaron's comments, did we want to add a condition about a site wall detail, right? Just at the base of the stucco wall?
Yes.
I think that's a great idea.
Sounds good. Madam Chair, I will try a motion here.
Thank you, Graham.
As soon as I scroll to the right part of the page. All right. I move to conditionally approve application number 2021-COA-0000001 for the construction of an addition, alterations to the windows, addition of an egress door, alterations to the garage roof, addition of a fence and wall as per design guidelines 2.38, 3.2D, 5.9, presented testimony, submitted documentation, and information provided in the staff report, with the following conditions: that all stucco materials used on the addition and fence be 3-coat stucco. I'm going to not say the garage roof, we settled there, but then add the condition that a detail be provided to staff for the site wall base and drainage detailing there.
I'll second that. Gary.
Thank you, Gary. All right. Let's do a roll call vote then. Brad.
Aye.
Aaron.
Aye.
Graham.
Aye.
Gary.
Aye.
Erica.
Aye.
Anne. Aye. And Julie votes aye as well. It's unanimously passed. Congratulations to the applicant. Thank you very much, Jesse. And our next project is Crystals, which is 2020-LSP-015, 511 16th Street, the downtown Denver area. Crystal.
Great, thanks. Hoping you all can hear me. So the proposed comprehensive sign plan is for a multi-tenant structure at 511 16th Street, which is also known as the Kitteridge Building. The structure is a contributing structure located in the downtown Denver Historic District and fronts onto 16th Street Mall with a secondary elevation fronting onto Glenarm Place. So this is the sign allowances table for the CSP. The proposed CSP is an effort to coordinate signage on a site with multiple tenants. Sign types are coordinated by type and size, and no projecting signs are proposed for tenants without direct street access. Limiting language is provided for each individual sign type, and no more than 3 signs per tenant will be allowed. And some of those sign types are wall, window, projecting, arcade, and awning sign types that are proposed. So this is the location plan for the Kittredge building. The Kittredge building is located within the DC downtown core neighborhood context and on the pedestrian-oriented 16th Street Mall. All signs will be at the pedestrian street level with primary signage located near business entrances. Only window graphics and awning signage can appear on or at storefront bays without entrances. And the proposed signage will be integrated into the building's architecture and will not obscure any architectural details. So these are the existing approved signs that currently exist on the structure, just so you know what's currently there. So here is the 16th Street elevation. Here you can see all proposed sign locations for all sign types. All wall signs are in red. The projecting signs are in magenta. Window signs are in green, and the awning signs are in yellow. And the one arcade sign that is proposed is in orange at the main entrance to the structure. And then this is the Glenarm Place elevation, and again, showing all those allowed sign types and locations. And then here you can also see the alley elevation. This also shows a few of those allowed sign types and locations. So this is the wall sign type page. All wall signs are to be constructed of high quality materials. Wall signs are limited to 1 per tenant per frontage and can be located above the storefront or main entrance or adjacent to it. Wall signs will be used in combination with other signage types, and all wall sign types may project from the wall surface no more than 3.5 inches. This is the projecting sign type page. Projecting signs are encouraged to be eye-catching, well-crafted 3-dimensional objects. Projecting signs shall not exceed 12 square feet in size, and all identified locations are for tenants, and limiting language states that projecting signs shall not be placed less than 25 feet apart, which will keep projecting signs from creating visual clutter on the 2 street-facing facades. This is the window sign type page. Window signage is typically located at eye level on doors and adjacent to entrances or in the lower 20% of storefront windows. Maximum graphic image area is not to exceed 20% of that total window area, with 10% allowed to be opaque or solid, and no illumination is proposed for any window signage. This is the arcade sign type page. As I previously stated, only 1 arcade sign is proposed, and that is at the main entrance along 16th Street for upper floors of the structure. The 1 arcade sign will have a maximum of 6 square feet of area allowed per sign face and will not be more than 3.5 inches in depth. The sign will be located above an entrance and will not obscure architectural details on the structure. So this is the awning sign type page. Awnings will be used to enhance the storefronts of tenants with direct street access. Awnings will be used as secondary signage, and signage on awnings will be limited to the bottom horizontal band of the awning, and only 10 square feet of area is allowed, though it can be spread across multiple awnings. If they had like 3 awnings, they could have that 10 square feet allowed across all 3. Staff did not include this sign type in the staff report by accident, and noticed that on this page on point 2 under required awning types that it states rigid, glass, metal, or composite material panels secured by a metal frame over windows. Panels must be sloped to provide shade. Staff would like to add a condition for this application that removes this language from the CSP, as these types of awnings would not be supported by staff on this structure. And design guidelines 6.16.f states to use high quality canvas and similar high quality materials for awnings. And 6.16G also states do not use plastic or shiny materials for awnings, of which glass or a metal or metal composite material might be. Furthermore, any type of awning that does not meet our design guidelines would also be required to be reviewed by the commission prior to any approval. So this language should be eliminated from the CSP. So this is the page that shows acceptable building material examples and acceptable sign illumination examples. All proposed arcade wall projecting signage will be of these high quality materials such as metal, metal composites, or cast stone, or other high quality durable man-made materials. And the window and door graphics will be vinyl, painted, or gilded. This also shows the illumination types, which allows external illumination, halo, or neon illumination. And then finally, this is a sign attachment page. There's actually two in the application. This just shows you where existing penetrations are on the building and marks the ones that can be used for signage. And also states that they won't be allowed to make any other new holes in the structure or in the stone, and that any additional signage attachment points be in the mortar joints. We are recommending approval for the application with the condition that the required awning types on page 18, that number 2, rigid glass, metal, or composite material panels secured by a metal frame over windows. Panels must be sloped to provide shade, be eliminated from the CSP prior to its final approval. That's it.
Crystal, thank you. Do the commissioners have any questions for staff?
I have a question. Hi, this is Ann. I'm a little there's existing signage on this building. And I think you said at one point, Crystal, that it was all part of another approved guideline. Is that correct?
All of the existing signage was previously approved as a use by right, but not through a comprehensive sign plan.
And so, for instance, I'm looking at the image on page 10, which shows the awning, exactly what you were just talking about, which is kind of droopy. And so if we approve this, I understand that generally when we approve everything as is. So those awnings remain as they are, even though moving forward, it would mean that you couldn't, if you replace anything that it's there right now remains, and then anything moving forward has to be part of this new guideline. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Okay, thanks, Ann. Any other questions for staff and the commissioners?
This
yeah,
is Erica. I guess I'm not quite sure if this is an issue or not, but I'm looking at wall signs on page 14 and the painted wall signs. The language that's provided talks about, there's a little bit of confusion on my part, I guess, as to whether this allows for direct paint on the stone of the building.
Yeah, actually, I think that image should have been eliminated. They had previously proposed one painted wall sign, but we weren't supportive of it, so they removed it. So actually, we should remove any language that refers to any kind of painted wall sign types.
Yeah, I might need to look again real carefully. I didn't necessarily see it in the language, but I was concerned about that image of the painted brick
Right.
So
I
I'll look-
think that's a condition that we should also add, that they remove that painted wall sign image from this page.
Okay, thanks, Erica. Anything else for Crystal? Brad? No? Okay, great. Jen, is the applicant present?
Yep, this is Emily and.
Oh,
they've
Emily, I'm
been-
sorry.
That's okay. They've been moved over.
Okay, great. To the applicant, you have 10 minutes to speak. Jen will have a timer that you can watch, Jen Capetto. And please, before you start to talk, please give your name and your address.
Sure, it's Rick Epstein, Re-Architecture, 1695 Oak Avenue in Boulder, Colorado. And I was the architect working with the owner on this document. I actually don't have a lot to say. I just wanted to thank staff. We've worked closely with them for a lot of months to get it to this point, and we really appreciate the hard work they've put in. To clarify, that painted wall sign was not meant for stone. There is exposed brick in the alley. And so we were considering a painted wall sign in the alley that staff did not support. So we did remove that. If that was interesting to you, we would be open to including that. It's not essential. And we did earlier on have a idea of glass awnings that staff did not support for the awnings that we also removed. But if you guys did feel that glass awnings were appropriate, I think there was a question of, because it's a historic building, and whether that would be appropriate. You know, I was kind of intrigued about that might actually be a nice complement to it and refresh the building a little bit. Also, you brought up the question about those droopy awnings, and they're a challenge. And it's a historic structure, and we wanted to not. I actually was responsible for redoing the Three Margaritas storefront that's there now, that took over the Paramount Cafe, and they are operable awnings, and that's one reason they're droopy. So they can get rolled up, and you know, and that is part of this historic structure. And that was one reason we were interested in maybe the glass awning, is that it did provide kind of a crisper presentation and perhaps a more functional one. But we're fine with a canvas awning as well, and wanted to just get this approved. It wasn't a critical point for us, but you know, those were some preferences that we were exploring, that since we forgot to scrub the document of those, I might as well mention them. But we're fine with staff's recommendations as well, if that's where you wanted to go. But just to let you know, we're also open to those other two elements. If the board was interested in those, we would be as well. I think the owner is here as well, just listening in, but that was about all I had. We were really excited. It's a really exceptional building, and you know, on the mall in Denver, and I think it can really having this CSP, I think, kind of will help really support the retail tenants that have really obviously struggled this year, the two restaurant tenants. So that's it. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you. Are there any comments or questions from the commissioners for the applicant? Alrighty. Emily, is anybody from the public out there wanting to comment?
I don't see any hands up. I don't see any. Nope.
And
Okay.
and that part is actually my job. I'm doing the public, and she's doing that.
So you see, I'm trainable, but you're not making it easy. No, that's okay. You guys are awesome. Okay, staff, Crystal, did you want to make any comments after hearing from the applicant?
Yeah, I just wanted to recap that specifically for the glass or metal awnings or canopies, there is a design guideline that is not supportive of that on historic buildings. We typically do allow them on new construction or infill buildings, but typically we're not supportive of them on historic structures, which is why we asked the applicant to remove them from the CSP. We also didn't want them in the CSP because we didn't want it to sound like we were kind of supporting or approving them prior to any kind of review with you guys, which would be required prior to that. So that's why I'm asking that it be removed from the CSP. If they wanted to add canopies at a later time, metal ones, they could come before you guys to ask for that. And they could also at that time amend the CSP if that did get approved.
Okay, great. Crystal, thank you for clarifying. Commissioners, any further questions for Crystal?
I guess I just want to clarify as far as the painted brick or stone, is it enough to say if other commissioners support it, some kind of conditional approval with that language or related images be removed, and then you can kind of make sure that rather than calling out any specific points that need to be clarified, would that be adequate?
Yeah, you could add a second condition that basically says that on the wall sign page, the painted wall sign be removed from this application prior to final approval, because we will review this before it goes to zoning for final approval to make sure it meets your conditions.
All right. Any other questions for Crystal? Okay, then at that point, commissioners, let's go into deliberation. What are people thinking?
This is Erica. I'll just say I think this is a great document to have, and I think I'm commending the owner and the applicant for pursuing this, and I think it'll be great, and I support it with the conditions that we've talked about.
This is Gary. I agree. I think it's a well-prepared document, and I support the two proposed conditions regarding the awnings and painted wall signs.
It's clearly an enormous amount of work. Any other commissioners wish to comment?
This is Brad. I'm on board with Gary's comments and Erica's comments. I think it's really well done. I'm glad, Erica, you picked up on the painted wall, the painted brick. I think that was a good thing to catch, and I'm supportive of it based on the conditions that we've talked about.
All righty. I am seeing a lot of nodding heads. Do I hear a motion from a commissioner? Gary.
This is Gary. Madam Chair, I move to recommend approval. Application number 2020-CSP-00000015. The comprehensive sign plan at 511 16th Street as per design guidelines 6.1, 6.2, 6.3, 6.4, 6.5, 6.7, 6.8, 6.10, 6.11, 6.13, 6.14, 6.15, 6.17, 6.18, and 6.20, presented testimony, submitted documentation, and information provided in the staff report with the conditions that 1, item 2 under required awning types be eliminated from the final comprehensive sign plan, and 2, that the final comprehensive sign plan remove language and images that refer to painted wall signs.
Gary, thank you. Do I hear a second, please?
This is Brad. I'll second that.
Brad, thank you. Let's go on to vote then. Brad?
Aye.
Aaron?
Aye.
Aye.
Gary?
Aye.
Erica?
Aye.
Anne? Julie also votes aye. The motion unanimously passes. Thank you very much, and thank you to the applicant. Crystal, you are on up again next with 2020-COA-434, 3045 Stout Street in Curtis Park. Take it away, Crystal.
Great, thank you. So this is the application for 3045 Stout Street, where the applicant is proposing to construct a new infill single-family residence with a detached garage on an existing vacant lot in the Curtis Park G Historic District. This lot is part of the Denver Housing Authority's DHA redevelopment of the Platte Valley homes. On December 3rd, zoning administration confirmed that the 18-foot setback would qualify for an unusual circumstance per section 12.4.7.5.b.1.a of the Denver zoning code, based on the fact that the zone lots are technically shorter than a standard lot in this area due to the imposition of that easement that runs along the rear of these properties. So Landmark staff feel that all development along this block on Stout Street should have a consistent setback, and we're supportive of that 18-foot setback as shown in the site plan to the right, to match other approvals that you've done on Stout Street for these projects. So on the left, you can see the siding for this particular property for the new house, and on the right is that site plan showing the proposed 18-foot setback. So here are the proposed floor plans for the new home. To the far left is the basement plan, and then the main level and the second level, and finally the roof plan. And then here we can see the proposed ground plan for the new build. On the left side, the numbers are kind of small, but they were in your packet, and they basically are showing the other side of the street as we've asked all these applicants to do. And then on the right, you can see the streetscape comparison for this proposed new structure. The building form and massing is characteristic of the historic district. However, staff feels the overall height is not characteristic of the block or the homes across the street, which will be shown on the next slide. And you can kind of see at the bottom their streetscape. It doesn't show the other homes that are proposed yet, but it showed the maximum height on this side at 29.6, although it looks like the apartment structures are about 26.6. So on this slide, you can see the streetscape comparison for the houses along the opposite side of Stout Street. The height of the hipped roof in this application is proposed at 31 feet and 1 foot and 3/4 inch, 31 feet and 1 3/4 inches, which does not match historic heights found on this block or across the street, where the applicant has shown in this application that the maximum height of the structures is 29 feet 6 inches. So staff believes that the height is too tall for the block at this time, and that the roof design could be modified to be accommodated under the existing zoning bulk plan restrictions, or it could also just be redesigned to bring the height down to better fit the height of other structures that will be on the block. So here's the compatibility demonstration showing how this Queen Anne design follows typical designs found within the district, having the main windows on the projecting gable and having the main entry door on the building inset. And this is just showing you a sampling of other historic structures that it's mimicking. And then here's the rest of that compatibility demonstration showing how the overall design fits with other Queen Anne designs found in the district. So here to the left is the front facade elevation of the proposed structure showing the paired windows at the first and second floor on the projecting gable with a 1-story porch and a full light door at the inset. To the right is the northeast facade showing how the brick will wrap the side of the structure by 11 feet. And then the siding material will change to a lap siding, and the windows will also become more modern square shape where they will be less visible. And then here to the left, you can see the rear elevation of the home, which will be clad in lap siding, and will have a sliding patio door at the first floor and a full light door from the rear of the home. And then on the right, you can see also that the brick will wrap this side as well, a bit longer to go past the chimney, which is also proposed. And you can see that the window shapes also change when they get to the lap siding to be a more modern style. And then this is the proposed 1-story detached garage, which will be clad in lap siding and will match the primary structure and be accessed from the alley. So this is the isometric of the infill design. The proposed infill structure's overall mass, width, and hipped roof design is characteristic of the district and matches overall historic proportions. Therefore, staff is recommending approval with the condition that the overall height be brought to 30 feet or under to match the heights of other houses on the block and across the street. That's it.
Crystal, great. Thank you very much. Commissioners, do you have any questions for Crystal? Anne.
This is Anne. I have a question. So I believe this is the third single-family home that we have seen on this site. And I believe that for both of the two previous ones, I sort of went back through my notes. For 3053 and 3043, we recommended an administrative adjustment for the height. Is that correct? Because both of those also were above the bulk plane. They were actually, again, if my notes are correct, one of them was 24 feet high and one of them was 25'6". And the reason I'm asking the question is because we've now eliminated the whole issue of the setback, the 18-foot setback, because that was a zoning question that was resolved in zoning. So we don't have to go through that every single time. And I don't know if you're the right person to ask this question to, but it seems to me that since that we're sort of in the same situation having to do with the height, if the intent is to make this block a somewhat unified block. And I guess I'm asking the question about whether or not it makes sense, and maybe it's not in our purview, for us to set a height limit that has to do with the two that are already existing, so that every applicant has a little bit better idea of what is going to be considered acceptable, given that we've recommended an administrative adjustment for the other two. So I don't know if you're the right person to ask the question of, but that's my
Thanks
question.
for bringing that up. I had looked at one or two of the other ones and I couldn't remember the exact heights. But I think, to be clear, that we're not supportive of using the administrative adjustment for bulk plane. In this case, I think it's really the height that is the issue. I don't think it's an issue of us being against it piercing the bulk plane, but because of the other heights that you just mentioned, those are clearly under 30. And so for us, it was more, why couldn't this meet that for this height? Because to us, the hipped roof design seems very tall. And so we felt that that could be brought down. So we're not against using it for the bulk plane, but in this case also it's specifically the height that we're not supportive of.
Thanks, Crystal.
I'd just like to jump in as I reviewed 3043 Stout, which is one of the ones that did receive an administrative adjustment. So that's the mansard form. It has an administrative adjustment for bulk plane because portions of the mansard roof are outside of the bulk plane, but it's well below the height limit for this district. So that particular one is a bulk plane adjustment, and it's because the applicant demonstrated to be compatible with the mansard forms within the district, they would need to actually enter the bulk plane to get the proportions of a mansard roof form that you see within the district. So I can't speak on the other ones. I think Abby reviewed the other one and she's on this meeting, so I don't know if she wants to jump in, but for the 3043 Stout Street, the mansard, that has administrative adjustment, but again, it's just for the bulk plane. We say bulk plane and height because they're combined together, but it's really only piercing the bulk plane for that specific project.
Thanks, Brittany.
Yeah. And just to reiterate what Brittany said, I think if the applicant had provided in this application proof that there were other examples that were over height, then maybe that would be a different case. But as the application you've seen, I didn't see that information. I didn't really see that shown. So that's why we couldn't be supportive of the height specifically. But that's also why I said it could be redesigned so that if they did redesign the height, but still asked for the bulk plane adjustment, they could ask for that again in phase 2. So it doesn't stop them from asking for it then if they brought the height down and just pierced the bulk plane at that time.
Okay, Crystal. Jen, it looked like you wanted to say something.
No, I was, well, I was going to jump in about 3053 Stout. I think that was a bulk plane as well, because it was more of a flat roof Italianate style,
Yeah.
modern version of Italianate.
Okay, thanks. All righty. Commissioners, other questions for staff? No? All right, great. Thank you very much, Crystal. Okay, Emily, is the applicant present?
Yes, they're both been moved over.
Excellent, thank you.
Yeah.
To the applicants, please give your name and your address. You have 10 minutes to speak. Jen Capetto will hold up her cell phone with the timing on it so you can see where you are with time.
And it looks like someone has their hand raised. David Burton, is he part of the applicant team too? He was not on our list. So
I'm unaware of that name, so you may want to ask Andre.
Okay. And looks like Jordan is also on and unmuted.
Okay. Applicants, you can begin anytime.
But you need to unmute yourself.
There's that, yeah.
Hey, this is Andre Kubian.
Hi, Andre.
David Burton is actually the principal architect on this one. He did register this morning. I'm not sure why he's not on the list. But if you could allow him to speak, I think he's the one who's ready to give a quick presentation.
Got it. I've just promoted him, and the list that we keep is when our project team emails you all and says who's going to be speaking. That's what the list I'm talking about. So
sorry about that.
No, it's all good.
That's okay. So please give your name and address. And again, Jen will have the timing, so you'll see where you are in the time.
David, you've been promoted, but you'll need to unmute yourself.
Got it. Hi, this is David Burton. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Perfect. Great. Again, this is David Burton. I'm the principal architect here at Real Architecture.
Okay,
And
can you please give your address, please, sir?
Sure. 2899 North Spear Boulevard, Denver, Colorado, 80211.
Thanks.
And I think also the clients are on the, are connected here too, are listening, and they may want to speak after I'm done. I'll just give you a little brief history. We've worked with Curtis Park Historic District, Curtis Park neighborhood, excuse me, for the past 2 or 3 months on this project. And our initial presentation to staff was fitting within the bulk plane and fitting within the maximum height. And so we were encouraged by the neighborhood group to basically raise our building further out of the ground and raise our floor to floor heights higher than we had, higher than the bulk plane would allow. Consequently, in order to meet egress with the window types that we have, which are single hung windows, we need to be 3 foot wide and over 6 foot tall. So our windows are 3 foot by 6'2", and these windows are frankly less than 2 feet off the ground. If we lowered our roof height, it will be difficult to meet egress in the front bedrooms upstairs, as we'd have to reduce the window size. Excuse me, a truck just driving by. We looked at doing casement windows, but we felt it was more appropriate to use Anderson 100 single hung windows for the district. Let me see what else I have. So we would be able to reduce our height a little bit and basically push the house into the ground a little bit and meet that 30-foot maximum height. But we still would request that we could break through the bulk plane on the sides. So that would be the thought that I have. Any further questions, I'd be glad to answer them.
Commissioners, have you any questions for the applicant? Doesn't look like it. There's still some time there. Did the owners want to speak? Is there, if they do, raise your hand using the.
I was going to say, I can't see if they're on or not because I don't.
Okay, that's fine.
So it looks like Jordan Fisher is on and Andre is on as well.
Okay, so the owners are not on.
Okay.
Oh, it looks like you've got a Lindsay Skipper has their hand raised.
Lindsay is the owner. There we go.
Okay.
Well, there you go. Okay.
I'm promoting.
Yeah, Lindsay, if we can have
Promoting
your,
Lindsay.
name and address, please.
Lindsay, you've been promoted. There's a lag between the promotion. So yeah,
Oh, we have
you've
to-
been promoted. You can.
I was
unmute.
muted. My name's Lindsay Skipper. My address is 3005 Welton Street. And we're the homeowners behind this project. We don't have a whole lot to add here, but we do want to thank everybody for their time in reviewing and helping this project, especially input from Keith Pryor has been really helpful. We're excited. This is a really unique opportunity, and we're excited to see all of the different houses that are going to go up on this block. And we feel very lucky to be part of all of this.
Great, thank you, Lindsay. Any questions from the commission for Lindsay or for David? Nope, okay, great, thank you very much. Jan, do you have anyone from the public who would like to make public comments?
Yes, Keith has his hand raised, so I will unmute you, Keith, and whenever you're ready.
Hi, Keith.
Hi, so yeah, Keith Pryor, Curtis Park Design Review Chair, 2418 Champa. So yeah, as the architect said, for these windows to work, which is a critical element of our historic district, is to have windows that are 2 times plus the height that they are the width. And so if you look on the designs, these floor plates actually match with a lot of the floor plates that are across the street. And so if it was sitting on the other side of the street, the height of the eave is not that significantly higher than those of what you're seeing across the street as far as eave heights. And so for this roof line to actually really work, it is going to have the higher roof height. And so at 31 feet compared to 29 feet, we're only talking 2 feet. And so, you know, maybe 2.5 feet, and that's not significant. And in order to get our window proportions correct, our floor plates and our porch, you are going to have on some of these homes with the Queen Anne, a much higher roof height than what you would have. But if you look at individual floor plates and how these floor plates are going to be lining up with the other properties, those floor plates and those eaves are going to be fairly compatible and right in line. And that's one of the critical elements and guidelines that are in the historic district and in the guidelines for landmarking. And so for this roof to work, it really does need that height. And that's why we're asking for the administrative adjustment and for this height to maintain itself at the 31 feet to really work for the Queen Anne. My house is over 31 feet. And again, it's over 2.5, it's right at 2.5 stories. And so, you know, there's no way to really actually measure what the true height of these are. You know, they're all estimate, but obviously we have the designs here. And we do support and encourage the commission to work with us on this window and give the extra height, which is not that significant over what is across the street. We're talking 2 feet, which is not, and given how the hip raises back in a recess, you're not going to feel that impact, but it will make us more of a structure that fits in with the district itself. So we do.
Great, Keith. Yeah, your time's up, but thank you very much. Staff, did you have any additional comments after?
There's also Sue, it would like to comment.
Sue, I'm sorry.
Oh, that's my job. Hold on a second. There you go. You're ready. Whenever you're ready.
Hi, Sue.
Hi, Sue Glassmacher, 1037 29th Street. I am the backup for Keith in Curtis Park. There's some things we really want to keep on this. We want to keep the raised porch. That's so characteristic. and we want to keep the floor plates where they are. They work. Now, I did some drawing and mucking around with this, and if we lower the slope of that roof, it becomes silly. It looks like so fake. So there might be another solution, but we leave it to you. So just lowering the slope is terrible. All right. I want to talk about, every time I see the apartments referenced, I cringe. I want to let you know how they came about. There was money that was available for renovation, not for new construction. So there were these very low ceiling brick barracks, flat roofed, that they had to do and renovate. And they put a lot of lipstick on those pigs. And they still are just barely right. They're not right. They don't have anything really to do with the neighborhood. We did a lot of work. They're okay. They're much better. But the reason they're so short is we couldn't even stretch them any higher because we had to keep the same floor plates that were original. And we had to keep the walls. So that's where those come from. And we stretched the height as much as we could without it looking out of proportion. So when I see anything compared to those, they do not fit the neighborhood, never have. And
Okay,
we
so-
just.
Yeah, your time is up, Sue.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Okay, commissioners, have you any questions for staff after the comments? I'm not seeing any questions for staff. All right. If that's oh, Gary. No? Okay, all righty. Then let's go on into deliberation, commissioners. What do you think? Gary wants to talk.
Well, I support the proposal as submitted without restricting the height for some of the same reasons that Keith and Sue stated. There are variations of heights in this district. And in order to, and I appreciate the vertical proportions of the building as presented and understand why the height ended up being what it is. The fact that the main body of the roof is hipped, the height of the roof will never really be perceived from the street. And I tend to agree that if the roof slope is changed, if the eave heights are kept and the roof slope changed, the building starts to look a little bit too squat. So I'm going to support the application as submitted without any restrictions to the height. And if that requires an administrative adjustment, I'm going to support a recommendation to do that as well.
Okay, yeah, great, Brad, did you have your hand up?
I did not yet. I still think my thought.
No worries. No worries. Anne has her hand up.
Well, I think that the thing that is challenging about this application is that we're dealing with an instant neighborhood. So all of the comparisons, which are to projects that are across the street and so forth, the actual comparisons, in my opinion, should be to the other houses that are going to be on this block, which will probably be built. You know, they've got a head start, they'll be built. And I am just worried about going above the height restriction, because this, again, it would be sort of nice every time one of these came up to have a listing of what the existing houses will look like, because we only have them because they've been applied. But one of them And both of which, as I said, got bulk plane adjustments. One of them is 24 feet and one is 25'6". So this one's going to be actually 6 foot taller. And I'm not sure that in an existing block, we would look at that same unit, we would look at that same design and say, yes, it fits in. It's true, it may fit in. I mean, I think there's a reason that there is zoning. There are zoning envelopes, which is to keep things somewhat uniform. And maybe, and I know that we've already given that up in terms of the setback, but there is something strange to me about just saying that we're going to take a height administrative adjustment for height on this one, because I just don't think it gives the future applicants any idea that there's any restriction at all. And that's the part that worries me. So I'm actually tending to think that I would not support this.
Okay, Anne? Anyone else?
Yeah, this is Brad. I think I appreciate Anne's comments and Gary's as well. I have some reservations about this as well. And part of it is because we've seen other projects in this same condition and they're following the guidelines, right? They can figure it out. So this is driven completely by the design. So the design direction that was created. So I understand and I can appreciate the proportions and everything, but it's really based on the design direction they decided to take this project in. And the other thing, thinking kind of more broadly, is, we see a lot of, neighbor conditions when it comes to solar panels, things like that. So we've had a lot of discussions about, people trying to maximize their solar potential on the side of a roof. And, I think we've seen firsthand what the neighboring properties, how they can affect that. And so, does approving this height, make the condition at the neighbor's house, right next door, that much more complicated for them to maybe achieve some of the goals they may or may not want to achieve in the future? So, I'm leaning towards, I think what Anne was saying, that there's standards here that help preserve the character and the conditions for your neighbor. That's kind of what zoning does. It levels the playing field for everyone. And I'm just concerned about this one-off kind of take on things, unless there was some really distinct reason that, this building had to pierce the height and the bulk plane. And I'm not seeing it. I see a design solution that creates that issue.
Okay, great. Thank you, Brad. Graham, Erica, Aaron, I've yet to hear from you guys.
I would agree with, I think, Brad's comment. And I wasn't going to say much more than that. Gary, I saw you raise your hand. I'll let you jump in.
Okay, yeah. Go, Gary.
This is Gary. I have a question for the commissioners. So is the objection to the height and the bulk plane intrusion, or just the overall height?
It sounds to me like the height. Am I correct, Anne, Brad?
This is Brad. I think the height is where my objection is. I do think that trying to achieve, and this is what we've seen on other houses in this neighborhood with the bulk plane, trying to achieve those proportions, usually where the difficulty comes in the bulk plane condition and not the height condition. And that's just looking at some of the houses we've reviewed previously.
I mean, this is a context issue. Anne is very right about that. We really need to be looking at this with all the other proposed buildings on this block to get a sense of the overall compatibility. Where my concern is that if, in order to meet our concerns about height, the floor-to-floor heights have to be reduced in such a way that the building starts to look squat, it loses that aspect of its character compatibility. However, on the other hand, if the eave height is the same, in other words, we don't object to the eave height, but the roof pitch has to be reduced so that the peak of the roof is no higher than the peak of the bulk plane. I guess that could work, but I think I would need to actually see that design to say, yes, it works and it's compatible and meets the guidelines, or it doesn't. So the dilemma here is, not necessarily if we're going to stick with our objection to the overall height, I think we're headed for a denial because we need to see what that restriction does to the proportion of the roof slope.
So Gary, that's exactly what I was just thinking. I see a couple nodding heads. Graham, what were you thinking?
I think just in general, agree with the comments that Brad and Ann made with respect to the zoning code. We do know that we're going to see a pretty good diverse group of buildings on this block based on what we've seen so far with the mansard roof and the Italianate that Jen mentioned, and kind of bracketed on either side by the flat roofs that Sue mentioned of the older buildings that were rehabbed. And
right.
But without that full picture, it is tough to say whether, as Ann mentioned, you'd have a 6-foot elevation difference there. And so I don't disagree, I guess, in theory with everything that's been said, including the restudy here of what those design decisions would be, which is not our directive on meeting that requirement. I think for the record, it's an attractive looking building that does meet the compatibility and other elements of our design guidelines. But in this case, as we've made the choice as a commission before, I agree with, allowing the applicants the opportunity to work within the code to find a solution.
Yeah, and I think perhaps a denial would make it easier for them instead of putting a bunch of conditions on it. Erica, did you have any thoughts? Aaron?
I don't have, this is Erica, I don't have anything to add. I think Graham summed it up well, and I think at this point that I would support denying it at this point, just to hope that gives the applicant a clean slate to kind of work with to come back.
Yeah. So let me ask a question. Crystal, do you feel that you have, because the applicant will have to come back to you and work with you again, do you have, from the commissioners, do you feel you have enough of the comments and the testimony to work with that?
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like, we're supportive of piercing the bulk plane, obviously, for the district, because that does make sense. Just it's the height that is the concern.
That's what
so, yeah. So if they could come up with a better design that better meets the height of this area, then I think, yeah, it sounds like otherwise we're good.
Okay, Crystal, great. All right, then, commissioners, do I hear a motion from the floor?
This is Gary. I just want to add, there was one of the buildings in the district that was shown as an example, and it's a similar mass to this building, but it does have a roof slope that is a lower pitch, and it's detailed in a way that it looks proportionate. I mean, that might be something that would be looked at in restudying the particular design.
Okay, great. Thanks, Gary. All right, do I hear a motion from the commissioners?
I can make the motion.
Thank you, Ann.
Madam Chair, I move to deny application number 2020-COA-434 for the mass form and context of the proposed infill structure at 3045 Stout Street as per presented testimonies and submitted documentation.
Thank you, Ann. Is there a second?
This is Brad. I second.
Thank you, Brad.
You need to have
Jen, did you have a concern?
Yeah. You
do we need to reference guidelines in that motion? Okay.
Madam Chair, I'll make
Adam wanted to say, hi, Adam.
Hello, Adam Hernandez, Assistant City Attorney. Normally, when you do cite guidelines, it's to approve something or add conditions. Here, I think it is fine because the discussion has centered around the height. And I think your discussion has been that the height does not meet the guidelines, and simply adding a condition to that height may not fix the overall problem. So I think, you know, through your discussion, you've established a baseline. And I think Anne's motion is satisfactory at this point. I don't think you have to specify, or you could just cite the guideline dealing with height. But either way, you have had discussion. There is a basis for that motion.
Okay, Adam, thank you. I appreciate that. All right, then I refresh my memory. Did I have a second for that motion?
Yep.
Oh, thank you, Brad. All right, then let's go ahead and do a roll vote. Brad?
Aye.
Aaron?
Aye.
Graham?
Aye.
Gary?
Aye.
Erica?
Aye.
Anne?
Aye.
And Julie, I also vote aye. So the applicant will need to work with Crystal on the redesign of that. Thank you very much. And speaking of Crystal, one more, Crystal. Hey, before we continue, does anyone need a break? We've been at this for a couple of hours. Would we like a 5-minute break? I see some heads nodding.
Yes,
Okay.
I would.
Okay, we will convene. It is 3:13. We'll come back about 3:20. How's that sound? Back, everybody. Crystal, you're up again. 2020-COA-433, which is at 918 North York Street. Take it away.
Great, thank you. So this property is at 918 North York Street, which is located in the Morgan Subdivision Historic District, just south of the Denver Botanic Gardens parking lot. And the house was built in 1923 and is a classical revival style 2-story brick hipped roof structure. The rear of the structure also has a 1965 addition, which is shown in the plans. The primary street elevation for the house actually fronts onto North York Street. And the driveway garage entrance for the structure comes in off of East 9th, and then making the rear of the structure and the lot face North Josephine Street, which would make this sunroom addition visible from that street. So you can see that configuration on the left side and the front of the house on the right. So here are some photos of the rear of the structure where this sunroom addition will be added onto the structure. On the left side, you can see that is the original part of the house. And on the right side, you can see that is the addition. And those windows on the addition are proposed to be converted to French doors. So here you can see some photos of this rear area. These are actually taken from Josephine Street. So you can see the visibility of the new sunroom addition from that area. So here's a site plan on the left showing the location of the sunroom addition. And you can see that they've hatched the house in different detailing pattern because the cross hatching is showing the 1965 addition to this house. So you can see what the original is versus the 1965 addition. On the right is a zoom in to where the sunroom addition is going to be put and where they're removing the windows from that 1965 addition and reusing them to create French doors that open into this sunroom from the house. So here is the south elevation of the new addition, showing it to be clad with red brick at the base and an aluminum clad kind of neo-Gothic pattern white windows and aluminum clad French doors. The roofing will be standing seam copper metal roofing, and the new windows on the addition have, at the transom, have that neo-Gothic design to match the windows on that 1965 addition. Staff believes a more simplified window pattern on the operable transom windows may be more appropriate on the sunroom addition. And then here is the east elevation. The proposed rear one-story sunroom addition with that lantern on top will have a minimal visual impact on the existing primary structure since it'll be located at the rear of the house and the lot, and it will be minimally visible from public vantage points. The new sunroom addition will be 21 feet tall, which is 9 feet shorter than the 30-foot tall primary structure, which it'll be attached to. And then here you can see kind of section throughs that show the new addition. As you can see, the existing original window on the original structure will now be located inside of the sunroom, where it will remain and is not proposed to be removed or altered in any way. So it will be preserved with this application. And staff believes the proposed addition is compatible with the existing structure and surrounding context, and will also be clearly recognized as current construction. Therefore, staff is recommending approval with the condition that the sunroom transom windows pattern be simplified. That's it.
Great. Crystal, thank you very much. Commissioners, have you any questions for Crystal? I don't see any questions. Emily, is the applicant present?
Hello.
Hi.
Hi, sorry. I have, yes, I have Larry and Jack.
Okay.
No Jack, and then looks like there's only, oh, and then Greg.
Okay.
So just move them over. Thanks.
Great. No, thank you very much.
Mm-hmm.
To the applicants, welcome. And you have collectively 10 minutes to speak. Jen Capetto will hold up her cell phone with the timer on it so you can tell where you are. When you begin to speak, please give your name and your address. And please begin when you wish.
Okay. Oh, great.
Okay.
I'll defer to Larry Cohen, our architect, if that's okay.
Okay, that's perfectly
Okay.
all right. Larry, your name and
Yes,
address.
hi.
Please. Hi.
Great. Hi, my name is Larry Cohen. I'm the architect. My address is 1550 South Acoma Street. Yeah, Jack and Greg asked me to design a conservatory room for their beautiful Jacques Benedict home in the Morgans Historic District. We really wanted to pay tribute to that beautiful Palladian window that faces east. So the addition has been designed to bring that window front and center into the addition. We really wanted to bring some height to the addition because it's really going to be a garden room with planted potted plants and trees inside. And so the exterior elevation has a line of windows and then the transom windows up above. And because the original structure, well, the addition to the original structure has these existing Gothic arched windows that we're going to remove and repurpose and turn into French doors that will serve as access into the space. We thought it would be nice to take the lighting pattern from those windows and use that as a inspiration for the transom windows up above on the east and south elevation, so that we could create a kind of a uniform interior elevation to the home. And also we thought perhaps that in order to distinguish this addition from the original Jacques Benedict home, that it might be nice to use the Gothic arch motif on some of the more decorative windows up above to distinguish it from the neoclassical Palladian window that Jacques Benedict used throughout the original home. So I think it's a nice level of detail that we would add to the house. It's something that we had spoken about from the beginning and as a way to honor the existing Gothic arched windows coming in from the living room. And so that was really the inspiration for for reusing that motif on the upper transoms. It's been a lovely to work with staff and Crystal. Thank you very much for all your help. And if Jack or Greg, I don't know if you guys are online, if you wanted to talk to your to the project, that'd be great.
Sure.
Absolutely. Greg?
I'll say just a few words. I'm a great devotee of historic preservation. I was on the Colorado Preservation Inc. board for 6 years, so I'm well aware of how you really want to distinguish between the original structure and anything that's added onto it for very good reason. So I just want to echo that what Larry said about trying to make our new garden room, or in my mind, it's a conservatory, really fit in more with the 1965 edition, which is kind of colonial American, as opposed to Jacques Benedict's much more formal Georgian revival style, which I love. I also want to say that we've not only preserved the exterior of the house, we've also taken great care to preserve the interior design that Jacques Benedict is so famous for. The crown moldings are incredible. And we are lucky and fortunate to be the fourth stewards of this house. The first family lived there for 30 years, the second family for 10, the next family for about 25 years. And we've been in the house for 30 years, and we plan to be there for at least another 20. So this house, which will be 100 years old in just a few years, is very much what it was when it was built, and with very little change to what the original house looked like then. I'm proud of what Larry's done with this new conservatory, because it will enable me to grow my trees. I've got an old eglantine rosebush growing up the south side of that wall that will become the new entrance into the conservatory, and I plan to keep that rosebush alive even when it's inside the conservatory. It's going to be an interesting project to see how that works, and I think it will, thanks to his design with the light coming in through the lantern as well as the windows. With respect to the neo-Gothic windows, I get what you're saying, but I don't want a hodgepodge of different designs in the windows. We've got the neo-Gothic wall, we've got the Palladian window from Jacques Benedict. The other two walls, I would want to resemble one of those and not something completely different, a third design. I don't want a third design. I'd rather it was the neo-Gothic. I could see how you might want it to mimic the Jacques Benedict, but then that would kind of make it look like the conservatory is trying to look like the original house, rather than fit in more with the addition. So that's why in my mind, I went with the neo-Gothic, just to keep some consistency there. So I'll throw that out for your consideration. And as Larry said, we appreciate very much Crystal's help and advice and comments on the project. It's been very valuable to us, and I appreciate your consideration as well. So thanks.
Thank you, Greg. Hey, Greg, just for the record, could you give your name and your address?
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm Gregory Movesian. I live at 918 York Street. My husband is Jack Finlaw. He can't be with us today.
Okay, great. Thank you, Greg. Sorry about that. Do the commissioners have any comment or any questions for the applicants? Anne.
I have a question for you. It's a little hard to tell from the photographs, but we can see the neo-Gothic window patterning on the 1965 edition that's on the south wall. Does it appear other places as well?
No, it's that was architectural salvage that the former owners put in 1965. It's the only set of windows really in that part of the building, in that part of the addition. There's some windows on the north side, but there are no windows on the east side.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions for the architect or the owner from the commissioners? No, okay, doesn't look like it. Greg, Larry, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Sure,
Thank you.
commissioners, or I'm sorry, staff, did you want to make any comments after their comments?
Nope, we're good.
Okay, Jen, are there anyone from the public that wishes to comment? Any hands raised?
I don't see any hands raised. Nope.
All right, all righty then. Let's go ahead and go on into deliberation, commissioners. What are your thoughts? I'll pick on somebody if somebody doesn't.
This is Erin. I'll jump in.
Thanks, Erin.
I actually like the neo-Gothic windows, as oftentimes conservatories do have a distinctive style and are sometimes more elaborate than the structure, the primary structure they're attached to. So I would support this application as presented with keeping the neo-Gothic transoms.
Erin, thank you. Gary.
I agree. What I appreciate is that the overall architecture of the conservatory is it's compatible, but it's simply stated. What I would have objected to if they've tried to present it would be, the photographs of some of the other conservatories show vaulted cornices and all of that. That would have been too elaborate. I think the simple design of the conservatory is very appropriate, and I agree that the Gothic design in the windows is simply stated and appropriate in this case.
Gary, thank you. Who else would like to opine? Graham?
Well, I'd just chime in and agree, but also I think the way that this building is sited, the way the addition is on the back, I think that in spite of slightly higher style here, which I agree is a wonderful addition, it's also still secondary. I mean, it's not highly visible from a public right of way, so I don't have any concern with the style of the windows either.
Okay. Does anyone else? I haven't heard from Anne or from Erica. No?
I agree with all that's been stated and don't have anything to add.
Okay, great. Then it sounds like we are about to approve as the application is presented. So we'll have to change the motion slightly. Is somebody out there willing to make a motion to approve as presented?
Madam Chair,
Yeah.
I will make the motion.
Thank you.
I move to approve application number 2020-COA-433 for the sunroom addition at 918 North York Street as per design guidelines 3.1, 3.2, 3.3, 3.5, 3.6, 3.7, 3.8, presented testimony, submitted documentation, and information provided in the staff report.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Gary, thank you. That was a tie. I'm sorry, Erin.
Nope, Gary can have it.
Okay. All right. We will vote. Brad.
Aye.
Erin.
Aye.
Graham.
Aye.
Gary.
Aye.
Erica.
Aye.
Anne.
Aye.
Julie also votes aye. So it has passed unanimously, the application as presented. Thank you very much to the applicants. Crystal, thank you very much. You are off the hook for the day. And up next is a familiar face. Hi, Brittany. She's here with us for 2020-LMDEMO-014, 1920 East 6th Avenue in the Country Club.
It says I have control, but it's not letting me change the slides.
That's strange.
There it goes.
There it goes.
It just needed a moment. Okay, our next application is for a determination of contributing or non-contributing status for 1920 East 6th Avenue in the Country Club Historic District. The applicant is also requesting total demolition of the structure. Section 30-11 of the Landmark Preservation Ordinance allows the commission to determine if a structure is contributing or non-contributing to a historic district with the following criteria in mind: whether the structure or feature is listed as contributing or non-contributing in the designating ordinance or the designation application, whether the structure or feature was constructed within the period of significance for the structure or district for preservation, and C, whether the structure or feature contributes to the significance for which the structure or district for preservation was designated. So the Country Club Historic District was designated on August 8th, 1990. Neither the designation ordinance nor the designation application contain a list of contributing or non-contributing structures and features for the Country Club Historic District. However, the district was designated for all three of our designation criteria at the time, which were history, architecture, and geography. Specifically, it was designated for its history as part of a development to the heritage or cultural characteristic of the city, state, or nation, identified with persons or group of persons who had some influence on society, and exemplifies cultural, political, economic, social, and historic heritage of the community. For the architectural criteria, it portrays the environment or a group of people in an era of history characterized by a distinctive architectural style. It's the work of architects and master builders who had influence on the development of the city, and contains elements of architectural design, detail, materials, and craftsmanship, which represent significant innovation. The district is also designated for its geography as a distinct part of or related to a square, park, or other distinctive area, and should be developed and preserved according to a plan based on a historic, cultural, or architectural motif. So neither the designating ordinance nor the designation application contain a period of significance. In May 1995, the design guidelines for the Country Club Historic District list the period of significance as 1902 through 1945. This structure was built prior to 1902. It's dated as circa 1900 in the Denver Assessor's Office. And it does state within the design guidelines that the L-shaped district includes 380 residents, most of which were constructed during the district's period of significance. As I stated, again, the Assessor's Office states the structure as circa 1900 and predates the period of significance outlined in the design guidelines for Country Club. 1920 East 6th Avenue is a simple one-story structure with decorative corner coins, arched window openings, and stone sills, and an asphalt shingle roof. The 1929 Sanborn fire insurance map does show a one-story brick dwelling with a full width porch, a partial width rear porch, and a one-story addition to the east with a wood shingle roof noted by an X. The structure retains its form as noted in the 1929 Sanborn map, which is now up on your screen. The applicant does state that this structure was originally a carriage house dwelling. However, Landmark staff have not found evidence that this structure was originally a carriage house dwelling, and it appears as early as 1905 on the Batiste real estate map, which you can see here, and is one of the earliest dwelling units within this area of the city. The land that later became Country Club was originally owned by John Rittenman. Upon Rittenman's death in 1901, his real estate holdings were sold off, and the Country Club area was purchased by a collective known as 4th Avenue Realty Company. Development in the Country Club Historic District first began in the early 1900s, primarily in the Park Club Place addition, which you can see a map here of the various additions to the Country Club Historic District. Development continued into the mid to late 1920s, moving east into Park Lane Square and Country Club Annex additions. Park Club Place is characterized by development on smaller lots, and there are one-story bungalows and Cape Cods and other simpler structures that can be found within the Park Club Place addition. As the development moved east in the mid to late 1920s, streets, lots, and homes become much larger, with the colonial, Mediterranean, and Tudor revival style dominating the landscape. Staff are recommending that the commission find the structure at 1920 East 6th Avenue as contributing to the Country Club Historic District and set a public hearing for demolition. We feel that 1920 East 6th Avenue contributes to the significance in the Country Club Historic District under the following criteria: history. It's part of the development, heritage, or cultural characteristics of the city, state, and nation. Architecture, it portrays an environment, a group of people who had historic and distinctive architectural style, and it is part of a distinctive square, park, or other distinctive area, and therefore qualifies for the history, architecture, and geography criteria. We feel that the structure contributes to the history of the city and as part of the development of this neighborhood, is contemporary with other early structures within the Park Club Place addition, and relates and retains a high level of integrity, and is part of a distinctive area that is the Country Club Historic District, and are therefore recommending denial of the applicant's request for non-contributing status and set a public hearing for February 16th for demolition of this structure. However, we do have an alternate motion for the commission to consider if you do determine that this structure is non-contributing to the Country Club Historic District.
Yes, thank you, Brittany. Commissioners, any questions for Brittany? Nope, I am not seeing it. All right, Emily, is the applicant present?
Hang on one second. We have yes, 1820, Catherine Stallings is available. Yes.
Okay.
And it looks like that's it. I don't see Jeff on here, so okay. She has been promoted. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, great. Catherine, as the applicant, you have 10 minutes to speak, and Jennifer Capetta will hold up her cell phone, so she's got a little timer, so you'll see where you are within that 10 minutes. Before you begin, please give us your full name and your address.
My name is Catherine Stallings. I go by KJ. My address currently is 8019 South Niagara Way, Centennial, Colorado.
Thank you. Yeah, you can start.
Oh, okay, I didn't see the timer.
Anytime you're ready. Yes, Jennifer Capetto.
Okay, this house, I've had it since for almost 30 years. I lived in it for a few years before I actually bought it. It has several neighbors have always considered this house to be an eyesore. It doesn't fit in with the rest of the houses in the neighborhood. I've done what I could to maintain it, to keep it looking as good as it can. But I've tried to sell it several times. Nobody wants to buy it. I've had it for sale for as low as $275,000. Nobody would buy it. I've taken offers as low as 80,000, less than the asking price. People just don't really like this house. The plot itself is nice, even though it's on 6th Avenue. It has some nice sun there and nice access. But the house, nobody wants. The only people that are even interested in the house are scrapers. It doesn't look like anything in the neighborhood. It doesn't really fit in. It's like having a trailer in a nice housing development. It just doesn't fit in. I don't think there's much more I can say than that. Jeff did drop out. The meeting was taken a while and he wasn't expecting that, so he did drop off. But that's my view.
Okay, all righty. Okay, that's fine. Commissioners, have you any questions for the applicant? I'm not seeing any. All right, Jen, are there any comments from the public?
I don't see any hand raises.
Okay, great, thanks. All right, Brittany, any comments after? No. All right, great. All right then, commissioners, we will start deliberation. What do you think? What are y'all thinking? I'm gonna pick on somebody if you don't start.
This is Brad. I'll rip the Band-Aid off and start. I guess it seems to fit a lot of the criteria. So I understand that it's kind of a different house by today's standards, but it seems like it meets the criteria based on, what we've heard from Brittany and, researching and reading more into this. So I'd like to hear a little bit more what the other commissioners say and understand, maybe it'd be good to talk a little bit about the process too. So if we, basically, it sounds like what we would do here is if we deny the application, then it would set a public hearing on the 26th where we'd get feedback from the public if there was anybody who thought that the project was historic. Is that correct, Brittany?
So if you determine that the structure is contributing to the Country Club Historic District, it would require the setting of a public hearing for total demolition of that structure. Per our ordinance, we have to hold that public hearing at the second regularly scheduled meeting. That notification to the commission occurs. So today would be notification to the commission, and we'd set the public hearing for February 16th. 13 days prior to that public hearing, signs indicating the request for demolition would have to go up on the property. And then we as landmark staff would notify all RNOs within 200 feet of the property of the requests to demolish. And also our preservation partners, which includes Historic Denver, History Colorado, Colorado Preservation Inc., all of those people. Demolition of contributing structures is rarely approved by the commission. However, that application request is something that the commission can hear and consider. We would do a more thorough integrity assessment of the structure, but staff would probably still recommend denial of that request for demolition as it's a contributing structure to the Country Club Historic District as determined by the commission at today's meeting.
Great, thank you, Brittany. Brad?
Can I ask one more question of Brittany? And it's really the guidelines state 1902 to 1945 or the period of significance, and this falls just outside of that. I know it's not in the ordinance, it's in the guidelines, and they are exactly what they are titled, guides, to basically understand what that important period of time is. But is there a precedent for other projects being slightly outside of those kind of set time frames where this has come up before?
Well, we just updated our ordinance for this determination of contributing and non-contributing status. So that section 30-11 is new to our ordinance. That's part of our update to the landmark ordinance that Kara and Jen and the planning and regulatory team worked really hard on recently. Since I have been here, I don't know of too many that we have made this determination on. I do know of one structure that was within the Wyman Historic District that was within the period of significance that the commission felt didn't contribute to the designating ordinance for Wyman, and it had a lot of alterations, so the commission approved it for demolition, but that's the only one I can think of off the top of my head.
Yeah, I can't think of any either. I feel like there was a project that in an area that had a period of significance in the application, but not in the ordinance. That there may have been one that was the building predated the period of significance. And I think that But I don't recall exactly. It's been a while. So.
Okay, thanks, Jen. Thanks, Brittany.
One other question there, if I can. That section 30-11, talks about the commission shall evaluate the following criteria, A, B, and C. I know, as an individual landmarker, when we look at meeting a number of criteria there, it's 3 of, so many, or 5 of so many. In this case, it states the criteria, but doesn't necessarily preclude, the structure from not meeting one or require that it meets all 3. And that may be a question for Adam too, but how should we interpret that as a commission here today? Maybe that's what we're interpreting, but I guess that's a clarification I'd ask if I can.
Yeah.
I got.
Yeah, Adam, you're welcome to answer that one.
So 30-11.1 does not say all of the elements need to be present. So it is more malleable and it is up to the discretion of the commission. It says they should just evaluate the following criteria. So if a criteria does not apply, it doesn't apply. But that, I don't think that means that therefore the status of a structure is therefore determined to be one way or the other. I think you look at all 3 holistically. If A doesn't apply, you look to B or C. If A and B don't apply, you would look to C. Conversely, and it really is a judgment call of the commission to look at the criteria as a whole and determine whether this is non-contributing or contributing.
Okay, thanks, Adam. Gary.
Well, I mean, I was looking at the photographs in a little more detail, and this building has some deliberate architectural character to it. So when it was designed, it wasn't just a speculative building or something that was intended to be temporary or transitory or transitional. And it was there before all the other buildings. And, this whole idea about it doesn't fit in, maybe all the buildings that were built around it don't fit in. I'm being, I mean, it's like, just because, it was there early, it's got some history of the area, architectural character. Even though that architectural character isn't the same as the architectural character as the rest of the buildings in the district, but I think it would be hard for me to say it's non-contributing, because it certainly contributed to the development of the neighborhood because it was there early. So it's, it is challenging, but I think it's difficult to say it's non-contributing given its history, its early vintage, and the fact that there was some deliberate attempts to give this building some architectural character when it was built. So I'm supporting its contributing status and would want to hear from the public what other support there might be for its continued preservation.
Thanks,
If I
Gary.
could
Adam?
just jump in one more time. I'm sorry, I forgot to mention.
No worries, no worries.
There is a required element to 30-11, and that is that the structure needs to retain its integrity. So that is something that does need to be met, and integrity is a defined term in the ordinance. So that would be something that the commission would need to find as present.
Okay, thanks, Adam.
I
Go ahead, Erica.
I'll just speak to that and just really as an add-on to what Gary has said and other commissioners have said, that not only meeting the criteria for which the district was designated and contributing to that significance, but also its integrity clearly still has its historic form, including that unusual gable on hip at the front entry there. as well as the coins at the corners and the slightly arched windows. So I believe it has a high degree of integrity based on the information we have and looking at the photos. So I think I would also support contributing status and would not be able to find it non-contributing.
Yeah, Erica, I was, as Brittany was explaining, part of the process after, should we find it contributing and have a public hearing, is that staff will look more into that as well. So I think it's a good argument that there's a lot of integrity there. It looks like it to me. Anne, what were you thinking?
I agree with everything that's been said. I think we haven't heard anything that would countermine this idea that it's contributing. In other words, the fact that the neighborhood thinks it's an eyesore is unfortunately not a reason to say it's a non-contributing building. And I think people have been very eloquent. So I would support finding it as a contributing building and setting a public hearing.
All righty. Sounds like we're pretty much in agreement here. Would someone like to make the motion?
I can make the motion. I just have to find it. There we go. Okay. I move to deny the request to determine the primary structure at 1920 East 6th Avenue as non-contributing to the Country Club Historic District and set a public hearing for demolition for application 2020-LMDEMO-14 on February 16th, 2021, as per section 30-11 of chapter 30 of the Denver Revised Municipal Code, design guideline 2.55, presented testimony, submitted documentation, and information provided in the staff report.
Erica, thanks. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Gary, thank you. All right, we'll take a vote. Brad?
Aye.
Aaron?
Aye.
Graham?
Aye.
Gary?
Aye.
Erica?
Aye.
Anne?
Aye.
And Julie votes aye as well. We have set the public hearing for the 16th of February, so we will see the applicant back on the 16th. Thank you very much, Brittany. I appreciate that. And then next, that can't be. Brittany only has one project this week. What? Abby, you are up. You have project 2021-COA-008, which is 3052 and 3056 Champa Street in Curtis Park. Is Abby there? There's Abby.
All right, Abby, I just made you a presenter on the screen. And if you're talking, we can't hear you.
You're muted.
All right, I've just texted her just in case she stepped away and didn't realize that one went so quickly, which is entirely possible.
Yeah, exactly.
Or if she's having technical problems, which is also
Well, there's
entirely
that.
possible.
There's that too.
Oh, she said she just lost sound and she's trying to fix it. So
okay.
Looks like she's gone. So I'm guessing she's restarting. So
Excellent. No worries. The fact that any of this works is still an astonishment to me, so.
All right, it looks like Abby's popped up again.
Yeah, really sorry about that. Really unfortunate timing for I've been fine the whole meeting and then everything just decided to go kaplooey.
No worries. I let them know that you were having technical difficulties. So we figured it was either that or you had just stepped away and didn't anticipate it was going to go so quickly. So you're up.
Okay, so let me see if I can control the screen.
You can now. It booted you when you restarted.
There you go. Yeah.
Okay, so here we go. Sorry about that. So final project of the day, 3052 and 3056 Champa. So this is a mass forming context review for 2 identical new single family residences and rear ADUs. The application also includes an administrative adjustment request for height and bulk plane. So the lots under review are part of the DHA's redevelopment of the Platte Valley home site. I won't really talk about that since Crystal talked about that site with her projects earlier today. So it's the same block. This one is on Champa, so it faces onto Mestizo Curtis Park. The infill proposed is for 2, as I said, 2 identical single family residences. They are not located on contiguous lots. There is a single lot that separates them. So as you can see on the map here, so it's the light gray are the existing DHA buildings that are located on 3 of the corners. The dark black are the sites that are proposed that we're looking at today. So 2 nearby lots, but with 1 developable lot located in the middle between them. And then the photographs show that corner DHA building and then the vacant lots where the new construction is proposed. So here are the site plans. So the rectangular footprint of the proposed infill is similar to that of the historic residences in the district. The residences are located on long and narrow lots and feature narrow side yards. This is characteristic of interior lots within the district. An ADU is proposed at the rear of the lot on the alley, which fits district patterns for accessory structures. So here is the proposed front facade and rear of the buildings. So the proposed infill residences are 2.5 stories in height, featuring a projecting gabled bay with a 2.5 story window feature. The entrance is located off center on the facade, which is characteristic of the district. A simplified porch provides a modern interpretation of historic forms. However, more information is needed on how the height of the porch compares with the porch heights found on nearby historic properties. The porch also includes an upper level balcony. Some porches with upper level access can be found in the district, but most of these appear to be later modifications rather than original historic features. When 2-story porches are original, such as the Queen Anne at 2825 Curtis Street, which was included in the application, they tend to be covered with an upper story roof as well, rather than roofless, such as the proposed design. However, staff's primary concerns with the design are with the roof pitch and with the facade fenestration. The gabled bay combined with a hipped roof is a common form for Queen Anne residences in the district, but staff finds that the hipped roof is much more steeply pitched than is typical for this form. Hipped roofs on tall, narrow buildings in the district characteristically feature much shallower pitches. When more steeply pitched roofs are found, they are typically on much wider residences. And then the fenestration. The facade features a single large window opening that extends 2.5 stories from the base of the first floor into the gable end. In order to construct a window of this size, the applicant is proposing to use a commercial storefront system, which is not compatible with the single family residential design. The large contemporary window design does not relate to the character and proportions of the windows in the historic district. So then you see the rear there. So while the front portion of the property is 2.5 stories in height, the rear is just 2 stories in height, and it features a flat roof with a roof deck. Since the roof deck is located at the rear, it will not be readily visible. However, the decks will look down on neighboring yards, so there could be potential privacy concerns. So here you have the side elevations of the property. So the side elevations clearly show the combination of gable, hipped, and flat roof forms that it's proposed. Though all of these roof forms are found in the district historically, staff does not find the proposed configuration to be compatible with the district. Particularly, we're concerned with the very steep pitch of the hipped roof. And the steep roof pitch will also increase the visibility of the proposed skylights here. The design of the windows on the side elevation is also highly irregular, without any of the rhythm that's characteristic of windows in the district. There are multiple window heights, widths, and orientation, and no clear pattern to the window placement. There are also atypical window combinations, such as hopper windows placed immediately below sash windows. So the ADU. So ADUs are proposed for the rear of each lot. They include garages on the first floor with an apartment above. The mass and footprint of the ADUs, as well as the alley placement, is compatible with the district. However, staff is concerned with the roof form and the fenestration. The ADUs feature a gable roof with side shed roofs that extend most, but not all the way across the sides. This seems to introduce unnecessary complexity to the roof design. Staff isn't sure what the function of this is. Staff would suggest a more balanced, simpler roof form, perhaps incorporating more of a dormer, kind of a true dormer design. The windows are also atypical. There are no windows on the first floor and no windows on the west elevation. And the south, east, and north sides all feature completely different window sizes and patterns. So there's no continuity or rhythm to the fenestration, no relationship between the various sides of the building. So here we have the study of the adjacent blocks. Since this is located directly across from the park, there's no immediate context the way we have on the other side of this block. You can look at the facing block. So for here, we asked the applicant to look to the blocks to either side. So to look to either side of Champa Street. So the 3100 block and the 2900 block. And the applicant has provided an excellent illustration of the buildings located on those two adjacent blocks. That's on page 7 of your application. However, staff does not find that the relationship of the proposed infill to this adjacent historic context is adequately shown in the application. There's no direct comparison provided between the foundation heights, door heights, porch height, floor to floor, and window heights between the proposed infill and nearby historic structures. So it's really hard to get an idea of exactly how the proportions of the infill are aligning with the historic structures that are nearby. The design includes a front porch, which does help it relate to block patterns, but lacks other scaling elements. Staff find that the lack of scaling elements to reference district patterns and proportions really emphasizes the perceived height of the infill. The applicant did provide a comparison to the adjacent DHA building, but as Sue talked about earlier, this really isn't representative of the district context. So just based on this, it looks pretty out of scale since it has much higher floor to floor heights. But we don't usually look at infill or evaluate infill compared to other infill. So what we really need is a comparison of the infill to other historic residential properties that are nearby. So this can be done through an example like this. This is from 3053 Stout that was on the opposite side of the street, where they did pick out representative buildings from the adjacent context to show how they aligned. So this example was provided to the applicant, and staff really feel that a study like this is really needed in this application to really see how features, floor to floor heights, windows, doors, porches, how those features are aligning with nearby historic properties. So the applicant is also requesting an administrative adjustment for height and bulk plane. So you can see the bulk plane here is illustrated with the dotted line. So the proposed residences are 33 feet 4 inches tall, which exceeds the max height allowed by zoning by 3 feet 4 inches, and exceeds the bulk plane by 3 feet 9 5/8 inches. So the commission may recommend an administrative adjustment if they find that conforming with the zoning code would have an adverse impact upon the historic character of the individual landmark or historic district. Based on section 12.4.5.3 of the zoning code, this is intended to relieve unnecessary hardship associated with median landmark design guidelines. In this case, it would be appropriate for the commission to recommend an administrative adjustment if they find that the height of the residence as proposed is more compatible with the district than a building that meets the zoning code requirements. In this case, staff do not find that an adequate case has been made for an administrative adjustment. Staff do not find that the proposed height makes this property more compatible with the district. Tall properties are found within the district, and there are a variety of building heights within the district. The character defining features for the district do state that raised foundations and tall ceilings provide for tall houses over 30 feet high on some blocks. However, the proposed design appears to be excessively tall. There does not appear to be any precedent given for a building of this height as based on the surrounding historic context. The study of the 2,900 and 3,100 blocks of Champa that's provided by the applicant shows that the tallest building on these adjacent blocks are 829 31st, which is 31 feet 6 inches tall, and 2,900 Champa, which is 31 feet 7 inches tall. However, these are both corner properties, which are often taller than properties located on interior lots, such as the infill we're looking at here. The tallest property on an interior lot is 2914 Champa, which is 31 feet tall. Other two-story properties on these blocks range from 24 foot 10 inches to 30 foot 10. So staff feels that a precedent is shown for a building height of around 31 feet. But what the applicant is proposing is quite a bit taller than that. So we feel that a small violation of the height and bulk plane required by zoning could be appropriate here, but that the amount requested is too large and not reflective of historic patterns. If you just exceeded the bulk plane by a foot or foot and a half, that would be more within the range of the surrounding building forms. Staff suggest reducing the pitch of the hipped roof in order to reduce the amount of the height and bulk plane adjustment requested. So the applicant does provide photographs of many other historic properties in the district from which they drew inspiration for the design. The primary inspiration appears to be Queen Anne properties, which feature a projecting front gable combined with a hipped roof, along with an offset entrance covered by a porch. Staff finds this combination of elements on the proposed infill to reflect district patterns, but believe that the hipped roof proposed is too steep for the design. The examples given here, these are all from the application, show that a tall projecting front gable is generally combined with a lower pitched hipped roof. And that's the most common configuration when you see this design. Also on the historic examples, it's really the projecting front gable that's the dominant roof form. We find in the proposed infill, due to the height and the steep pitch of the hipped roof, it's the hipped roof that's the dominant form. So we would recommend restudying the roof design to make the front gable really the dominant feature of the roof and to reduce the visibility of the hipped roof. The other issue to be discussed with this property is the use of the identical designs. So staff does have some concern with the identical designs proposed for 3052 and 3056. Such matching designs, which we often refer to as sister houses or twin houses, are a common feature of the Curtis Park District, both historically and in contemporary infill. So the support letter provided by the Curtis Park RNO has provided a good sampling of both historic and infill sister houses within the district. Staff's chief concern is that the sister houses being proposed are on lots that are not adjacent, which is the most typical configuration. So you see here, just for reference, kind of a collection of various historic, sister houses within Curtis Park. Located between the two properties under review is 3054 Champa, which is also being offered for development by DHA and will be developed by a different owner. So staff do not find having two identical houses separated by an unrelated property to really fit district patterns. And we also have concerns for this really creating awkward conditions for the development of the middle lot. Staff would suggest tweaking the designs in order to provide some individuality. The same overall plan and form could be used for both while altering details such as door placement, materials, window, and porch designs. This would also fit with the current district conditions. As you see here, though these properties, we can't know to which, to what full extent these started out as identical properties, but you see that over time, most sister houses have evolved. So they do have some individuality. They're still very clearly related in form, but there are differences in porches and windows and, material details that, kind of set them apart. And we've also seen that then on infill within the district. So here's just some infill projects for reference. New sister houses infill approved within the Curtis Park District has also intentionally included small design tweaks, differences in order to differentiate designs. These properties feature differences in entrance placement, porch design, materials, often feature mirrored designs, and detailing in order to distinguish the properties. So you can see here, these all have some various tweaks in the detailing so that they're set apart and they're not just exactly identical. Okay, so summary to wrap up. Curtis Park neighbors have reviewed the design and provided a letter of support for the project, which is in your application, as well as the additional letter that I sent out to you as well. Curtis Park neighbors are in support of the project. They suggest further study of the spacing, rhythm, and definition of the windows within the glass wall. Staff is recommending denial, finding that the mass and form of the proposed infill does not sufficiently relate to the district context. To be compatible, an infill structure should relate to the character defining features of the district, feature proportions that are similar to those found in the surrounding context, and fit into the rhythm of the district. Though the proposed infill is uniquely situated on a block without any historic structures, it still needs to relate to the district context, especially since it's located in a highly visible location across the street from Mestizo Curtis Park. Successful infill is neutral and blends into the district without drawing attention away from adjacent historic structures. Landmark staff find that the height, roof pitch, and fenestration are not compatible with the district. The 2.5-story window feature and tall, steeply pitched hip roof will draw attention to the property rather than helping it blend into the district. Staff would recommend reducing the height and pitch of the hip roof and providing additional information on how the scale of the property relates to historic properties on adjacent blocks. Staff would recommend restudying window proportions and placement, including dividing the 2.5-story commercial window system on the facade into individual windows and using more regular window proportions and orientations on the side of the residence. Staff would also recommend simplifying the design of the ADUs, including simplifying the roof form and using more regular window sizes and placements. And that's it.
Okay, Abby, thank you very much. Do the commissioners have any questions for staff? Oh, Anne.
I have a question. In the original RFP, which I know is not in our purview, is there any additional form giving requirements other than that whatever's built conforms to the landmark guidelines? Is that the only?
No, they do, they talk about setback. In that RFP, they encourage a design that's mostly brick, and they encourage the addition of ADUs to the property, but they really don't give any other kind of design details or any other, things that they request or ask for in that RFP.
Okay, thanks. Other questions for staff? Doesn't look like it. All right. Emily, is the applicant present?
Yes, they are. It's me now because Emily needs to leave. So
Okay.
sorry, we're mixing it up for you.
You are not making this easy.
I'm not, no, but Anthony and Nathan have both been promoted to panelists, so you'll need to unmute yourself when you're ready.
Excellent.
Hi, this is Nathan Lauda. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can. Please, please give your name and your full name and your address before speaking. You'll collectively have 10 minutes to speak. And Jen Canetto will be holding up her cell phone to show the time, so you'll know where you are.
Got it. Yeah, my name's Nathan Laudick. I'm applying along with my brother Cameron Laudick. We were luckily awarded 2 of these lots. We had preferred for them to be adjacent to each other, but it wasn't an option given to us. But we had always intended, if we did win, that we wanted to build similar houses next to each other. My brother's moving from Chicago. He actually just got to Denver about a week or 2 ago, and I've been here for quite a while, and we're excited to get down there on Curtis Park and appreciate the opportunity to build there. I'm going to let Anthony, the architect, do most of the talking, but I just have a couple quick points about the design and kind of where we launched the idea for what we were doing. On the, I think it was even on the cover sheet of the RFI process from the DHA for selling these lots, they had a concept of like the new streetscape there of the houses that would be along Curtis Park. And there were some very modern looking homes with large glass windows, and we know they probably took some liberty with what they showed there, but we thought that there may be an opportunity to do something a little bit more modern while kind of relating to the historic inspiration of the district. And we don't have problem, I don't think we have any problem with tweaking the design as far as maybe changing the color brick and some small detailing to make them unique. They don't need to be exactly identical as long as we can do the same kind of form and floor plan. But yeah, we appreciate the staff's time and everybody's time on this, and I'll let Anthony take over from here.
Okay, great. Anthony, please give us your name and your address, please.
Hey, I'm Anthony Reese, AIA. My address is 215 South Wadsworth Boulevard in Lakewood, Colorado.
Great, thanks.
All right. Thank you, everyone present. Kelly Wemple, Chair, Julie Johnson, Vice Chair, members of the Landmark Preservation Commission. We appreciate your time and consideration of these 2 homes for the Laudick brothers. I'd like to also thank staff for their review and assistance, particularly Abigail Chrisman. And secondly, I'd like to thank Keith Pryor and Sue Glassmacher and other members of the Curtis Park Design Review Committee for their keen eyes and insights. Nathan Laudick and I met with Sue and Keith in the fall of 2020. We enjoyed a vigorous and engaging conversation with them, which honestly didn't want to end. We could have kept going and going and going. We discussed what it would be like to build a home in historic neighborhoods such as Curtis Park. That conversation inspired us to develop a home that respects the past context and rhythms of the entire neighborhood while being a product of our time and looking forward to the future. One idea that really stood out to us during that conversation was the idea of a new old home. Many infill homes in historic neighborhoods are homes that are new, but they look old. So we're not necessarily setting out to design a new home that looks old, but rather something new that references the past and also looks forward to the future of our city. Because we feel like that's kind of how this neighborhood started 150 years ago. It had 4,500, 4,800 residents in 1870 and quickly grew to 106,000 residents, quickly growing and looking forward to the future. So with all this in mind as well, we designed the home we feel is neutral, yet draws in the mind as you walk by. You may kind of ignore it at first, but as you sit in the park and kind of contemplate it, you see more of these features that come out, such as, the raised porch, a covered porch, a small balcony, tall windows, high ceilings, and a gable that really tie into the neighborhood. And we're also interested in using quality materials such as brick and metal, so that this house stands the test of time. And as mentioned by Abigail, it's a challenge because this street is vacant and it does face the park. So there's not a lot of immediate context to that, to the home and to the streetscape. So that's why we kind of looked also to the neighborhood in large part as well. So I want to dive into some of these guidelines and give some response to those. So in setting the height of the structure, we looked at the rhythm of the homes and the two joining blocks as suggested by Abigail. And on our streetscape sheet, which is page 7 in your document, you can see two homes, over on the end at the top left that are very tall in the corner. Yes, thank you. One more. Yeah, looking at the very top left, kind of 3162 Champa and 3160 Champa. Immediately next to those is 3154 and 3148, which are considerably lower than the homes next to them. Then you move to the middle of the top page, and you can see 4 low homes along this streetscape. So if you kind of draw a line horizontally across the peaks of those roofs, you'll see that each home on the end buttresses them where their kind of top story and eave really springs from the height of those roofs. So bringing you down to the bottom left of the page, we're mimicking that same idea where we recognize the DHA building isn't necessarily contributing, but it does have a strong horizontal parapet from which we spring our roof pitch where our eave aligns, similar to some of these homes along the street. Also, because there's not a lot of homes on the street, we look at these things like foundation height, door height, porch height, floor to floor, and windows. You can see how it all varies a lot through a range, but each block has its own kind of range that it also sets. So in the top right at 3122 Champa Street, we can see it's on a raised foundation with a typical door height of like 6'8", but there's also a transom which creates some more vertical, aspect to these homes, or that particular home. It also has raised window heads. So you can see it's 3122 Champa next to 3128. There you can see it looks quite a bit taller on the first level because it's raised and the one next to it is not. So we feel like there's a lot of variation and a lot of opportunity to create some variation on the new streetscape as well, while we feel it's still largely in keeping with the size of at least the existing structure that's on the site. On 4.4, both homes at 2625 California Street and 2525 Champa are tall, thin homes with strong main gables and receding hips roofs beyond. 2525 does have a particularly steep gable and hip roof, as does 2640 Curtis Street, which is another rhythm established by the neighborhood. Skipping down to 4.7, and this is on pages kind of 9 and 10 of our application. So if you could just bump over a couple pages, Abigail. There's a lot of homes, as mentioned, with a front gable and a background hip roof, which I agree some of these are lower pitch roofs than perhaps what we're showing, but they're also a little bit more complex than what we're showing, particularly the one in the lower right-hand corner down there. 4.8, the window patterns and salt to void ratios tend to be a function of construction of the time. So I think if you look at some of these homes, big windows for the time where maybe 20 or 30 or 50 years sooner, homes or windows are really made of very small lights brought together by pieces of wood, mullions and muttons, right? So we live in an age now where storefront is becoming more and more popular on single family homes. And that's just the manufacturing process that we have. So we're trying to make a nod here with 3 segments of windows, the verticality, but also using modern construction techniques to get a lot of glass, like a lot of these homes that you can see on the screen have, which I would argue is a lot of glass for the time. Another thing, we do see a lot of porches throughout the neighborhood, both with and without covers. Quickly moving on to the ADU, because I know we're running out of time. You know, we're open to adjusting the roof form and window placement on that as well. And as far as the twins go, we're open to, you know, developing some variation between the two, as Nathan mentioned. So in closing, we've worked very closely with the Curtis Park Design Review Committee to develop a pair of homes that fit within the neighborhood. Attached to the application is their letter offering conditional support. We respectfully ask the Landmark Preservation Commission for a motion and vote in favor of these 2 homes, at least at this phase. So thank you for your consideration. We look forward to working with all you to create a couple of nice homes for the neighborhood. Thank you.
Thanks, Anthony. Do any of the commissioners have questions for the applicants? Brad, did you have something?
Yeah, I mean, I want to kind of just get to the height and the bulk issue. You know, I appreciate the presentation, and I wrote down a lot of the comments that you made, but as the administrative adjustment is based on relieving unnecessary hardships. So I'm just looking at actually some of the language. What are the hardships that you're trying to relieve with the height of this building and the bulk plane? Not staying within the bulk plane. Are there specific? I mean, you went through and talked about specifically about some of the other buildings that are tall. Mm-hmm. But we specifically have to look at it through that lens. So could you talk about that a little bit?
Sure. One of the challenges of kind of the neighborhood is, you know, we're looking for raised porches to kind of create eyes on the street and kind of that older feeling of people sitting on their porches and, you know, watching the neighborhood. And then these homes also have tall, thinner windows, which creates a taller main level ceiling height. The floor structures are deeper today than they were 100 years ago. You know, we're usually a foot thick. They might have been, you know, with effectively a 2x8, so you lose a little bit there. And then just moving on to the half story and getting access and headroom clearance to get into that half story loft space and out onto the back deck. Kind of all those pieces combined to require some extra height. You know, but we're open to finding ways to adjust the height and bring it down a little bit. You know, we can sharpen the pencil there for sure.
Okay, great, Anthony. Any other questions from the commissioners for the applicants? I see none. All right, Jen, do we have public comments? Do you have any hands?
We will. I don't see any hands up. There's Keith.
Yeah.
I guess that Sue will be next. So
okay,
I'll
great.
unmute you.
Great, thanks. Keith Pryor, 2418 Champa Street. And so, yeah, just like the architect said, you know, zoning doesn't work for our neighborhood. And we don't want a block full of 30-foot tall houses that are uniform. As you saw in his presentation, we have single-story homes with 2.5-story homes right next door to one another. And that's what we're trying to do, as I mentioned in my opening statements in the 2 minutes at the beginning of the meeting. We have a unique district. We want varied heights on a block and within that block and within our district. And that's why we have the administrative adjustment to give us the height, to give us the varied block for what our district is. It may not be Baker where it's all uniform and you have 30-foot heights on the entire block. That's not Curtis Park. That's why we always ask for greater heights. That's why we have a pattern book that asks for a variety of styles. This is what our district is, and this is what we expect the commission to respect when they look at our district. We have a varied district, and we have very tall homes, and we have mid-level homes and short homes, and they all exist on the same block. So please do look at our district as unique and understand that when you're reviewing these projects. Having the sister houses, actually, the other two houses on this adjacent lot between their two and the house next door is actually being bought by two sisters. And so you have two brothers and two sisters that will own these 4 lots. And so we do have examples to where houses have been on separate blocks that are twin houses in the district, and I provided that in my letter. The other piece of having 3 different roof forms, we have single-story and 2-story flat roof additions on the back, and we feel this is way better to accommodate a rooftop deck than a doghouse. And so we would rather have this roof configuration than having a doghouse, which is not found in our district. So thank you for your consideration, and the rest of my comments are in the letter.
Great, thank you, Keith. Is Sue there?
I thought I clicked it. Okay, you can go ahead when you're ready, Sue.
Hi, Sue.
Hi. So I have a problem with this in that the silhouette is the only thing that really says Queen Anne to me. This is a glass wall on a very busy street across from a park. And I appreciate them trying to do a modern look, but there's not enough Queen Anne here. And I think that with these windows, all we're going to be seeing is window coverings and not windows open like this. No one lives in a fishbowl in the city on a busy street across from the park. So I just thought it was inappropriate. There's so many windows and skylights on this thing. It surprises me. I just think about the air conditioning bill. I don't think the roof is a problem. I see it as a gable and a hip with a cutout, and that works really well for rooftop decks. We don't see them. There's no doghouse, so we like that. And I'm not sure what's going on with the porch. I think the porch has got a pergola style on it. And again, it looks flimsy. It doesn't seem to have any relationship to the neighborhood. And yes, we want modern, a modern interpretation is good, but I just don't think this one works with the glass wall and there's no windows or, it's just a wall that's open, will be covered with window coverings. How am I doing, Jan? Okay, I'm over and out on that one.
Thank you, Sue. Appreciate that very much. Are there any, does the staff have any redirect after the comments?
No, I don't have anything else.
Okay, great. Any further questions for staff from the commissioners? If not, we will go into deliberation now. Thank you very much. So what are people thinking? We got a lot of stuff going on here.
This is Erica. I guess I'll just jump in and say I am also concerned about the height. I certainly hear Keith's concern about having variety and that there are different heights within Curtis Park, and but I am concerned about the just how tall this particular form is, and I'm not particularly concerned necessarily about the different roof forms as they step back from the street, but I am also concerned about the front, the window fenestration, as well as the side windows and the way the porch actually relates to the front of the house. Those are definitely my biggest concerns at this point.
Okay. What are the other thoughts? Let's tease out the height first. Commissioners, what are your thoughts on the height? Erica gave her thoughts. Gary.
Well, you know, the previous proposal, I was actually in favor of making an exception for the height. But, you know, the character of this facade with its all glass front seems to exaggerate the height in a way that jeopardizes whatever compatibility with neighborhood context might be. And again, you know, what's the context for an empty block? It's, you know, by the guidelines, it's the surrounding existing structures on adjacent blocks.
Mhm.
You know, I think it's hard to react to whether something is too tall or not when I think the facade just doesn't say Queen Anne. I'm kind of hearing what Sue said, is that the very silhouette of the building suggests, you know, a particular architectural style, but nothing else about the mass and form, and the fenestration says Queen Anne or says any other kind of, you know, compatibility with any other kind of style that's in the district.
Yeah, I can see that. Anne?
I just want to build on what Gary said. I think that all of the other houses that we've seen in this district are bearing wall structures. And there is no possibility of this as being a bearing wall structure. And I think the thing that I find most disturbing about it is the brick that's over, the triangular brick that's over the main window, because even if you were going to do an interpretation, it would be a different material. It would be some kind of a shingle of some sort, you know, which maybe would be a clever twist on it. But I just don't, you know, again, I'm going to go back to what I said before. I think the zoning is helpful here. I know that Keith is not in favor of it, but it is the zoning. And that's one of the reasons why I was in favor of in the previous house, it was also part of this, of saying the zoning wins out. Maybe you need to change the zoning, but until you do, we're sort of bound by it. And I think Brad asked the key question is, what is the hardship that would cause us to say, to make an administrative adjustment? And there's not a compelling one. But I would say to the applicant that I just don't see the spirit of the other homes in the neighborhood. And again, because this is not a bearing wall structure and there's no way it could be. And it's sort of one of the key elements to all of the other houses.
Good point. And thank you. Graham, what are you thinking?
Got to find my unmute button here. You know, yeah, I mean, I think that echoing comments from earlier and comments made now that not ignoring Keith's comments about the varied heights. I feel like, again, that the height here is not a design, it's not a design issue based on what we're seeing here to achieve a specific historic context. So it's not something I feel like in and of itself is something to approve for a variance that way.
All right. Erin, did you have any thoughts? Anything you wanted to share?
I have nothing additional.
Okay. Brad?
Yeah, I'll add to, you know, I like, Anne, your comments about this not being a bearing wall condition, I think are an interesting way to look at it as well. You know, I think initially my thoughts were that this sort of glass wall could be successful, but it's all the proportions throughout the neighborhood that could come in and make this successful. So the mutton bars, sashes, you know, they don't have to be thin. They could have some thickness to them. You know, the way that you treat that could pick up on a lot of the design cues that exist within the neighborhood. And I think that's with a lot of this detailing, and I think we've kind of gotten to that a little bit, but I'm all for taking and you know, kind of using a more modern form and a modern aesthetic, but I think there's a rich you know, series of details in the neighborhood, across the street, all throughout the neighborhood, that could be utilized and modernized and really relate back to what is there, but kind of bring a new spirit. And I think that this focused a little too much on maybe what, you know, a little bit what Gary was saying, more of the wow factor, the verticality, and trying to make that big statement, and as opposed to drawing from those really wonderful, successful details and kind of being critical about them and making a modern interpretation of that. So I think going back to some of the things Abigail said, the studies, you know, really studying the proportions and showing us how this building relates to that is what's going to help us, you know, make a better determination. You know, right now, I totally understand the passion about the height. And I, you know, design houses. I would love to be able to break height limits all the time. But it's that thing that's there to make it fair for the person next door. And I think we talked about that before. So if there's a compelling reason, a hardship that we're trying to overcome, that's, I think, what we need to be discussing. And maybe I'm not getting it, but I just am not seeing it right now.
Yeah, Brad, I really appreciate you bringing up the hardship because that makes a very, very good point. And I guess it kind of, in one way, it makes it easy for us. I don't see the hardship either. I agree with you all on that. Abby, if we, question for you, if we move to deny, if we vote to deny, do you think we have enough comments from the commissioners to help guide the applicants?
I think overall, yes. I think the one thing that hasn't really been discussed much is how much are you okay with the identical designs currently proposed? Do you want to see some variation between the two? If you could discuss that a little bit, I think that would be helpful for guidance.
Great. Thanks for reminding me. I've got it, even got it on my notes here. Commissioners, what do you think about the identical designs not being next to each other?
I think that, this is Brad, I think that we saw some options when Abby was running through the slides where people make small, subtle changes that have significant impacts. And I think that this facade could be studied in two different ways, that maybe they're not sister houses, but they're cousin houses. And that, I think that subtle change or treatment could be successful. And I think that would help alleviate my concerns.
Yeah, Brad, I agree. And I think the applicants were amenable to working on that as well. Are there any other comments from commissioners regarding?
I think Abby's slide showing, you know, both new infill projects, and I know walking in historic neighborhoods, you see all the time the historic sister and cousin houses.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm all for the minor tweaks. I think that adds a lot of interest, a lot of character, which is one of the things that the applicants talked about in their presentation too from the park. It adds one more layer of visual interest there, and I fully support that.
Yeah. Anybody else wish to opine? All right, it looks like we're coming to the motion. Commissioners, do I have somebody to make a motion for us?
This is Brad. I can make the motion.
Thank you, Brad.
I move to deny application 2021-COA-008 for the mass form and context of the proposed infill at 3052 and 3056 Champa Street as per design guidelines 4.3 through 4.5, 4.7, 4.8, 4.16, 4.19, character defining features for the Curtis Park Historic District, presented testimony, submitted documentation, and information provided within the staff report.
Brad, thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Graham, thank you. Let's take a vote then. Brad.
Aye.
Aaron.
Aye.
Graham.
Aye.
Gary.
Aye.
Erica.
Aye.
Anne.
Aye.
And Julie votes aye as well. So we have approved the denial of the application as presented. So next would come business items or discussion items, and there isn't anything on the agenda that Jen, was
I know of
anything?
nothing
No,
as a
nothing?
business or discussion item either.
Okay, great. Well, per usual, staff, thank you very much. I very much appreciate everything. Commissioners, it's great to see you again. I hope to see some of you at the CPI see some of you at the CPI conference in a couple of weeks. Great. Well, everybody have a good couple of weeks, and the meeting is adjourned at 4:52. Thank you very much, everybody.